Welcome, everyone. We're going to get started a minute late. Thanks for braving the rain. In a way, it's better than the heat we had. Tonight is a regularly scheduled meeting of the Land Use Committee. With us here in the chamber, we have enough counselors to start with a quorum. We have from Ward 1, Allison Leary, who's also the vice chair of the committee. I'm Andrea Kelly from Ward 3. I'm the chair from Ward 4, Randy Block. From Ward 5 is Julie Irish. And online from Ward 8 is Stephen Farrell. If more people come, I expect they will. I'll introduce them. We have some staff with us here in the chamber. We have our committee clerk, Curtis Bucher, and staff planner, Sandria Berman. And online, we also have planner Kat Kemet. And we have, I believe, Jonah Temple from the Law Department online too. We are also being joined by City Council President John Oliver, always welcome, not a member of the committee. Dare I say we only have 2 items before us tonight. That seems very encouraging to some of us who are used to being in this chamber for long evenings. Hopefully that won't happen tonight. The first one is item number 190-26, which is a request to allow a retaining wall with 4 feet or more in height at 335 Langley Road. And we're going to start by hearing from the someone from the petitioner's team. Go ahead, Mr. Lee.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Good evening. For the record, my name is Lawrence Lee with the law firm of Rosenberg, Friedman & Lee at offices at 246 Walnut Street. On behalf of the petitioner, Mr. Dorenzo, who is joining us via Zoom, with your permission, I would like to share my screen and just quickly recap the petition.
Thank you. Go ahead. While you're pulling that up, we've been joined remotely by Councillor Sean Roach from Ward 6.
Thank you. So very quickly, this is the second time before you. We were here last month. And just a quick revisit of where we are. We are at 335 Langley Road. This is actually part of a 5-lot A&R approval not required subdivision that's already been done and recorded. What we're here before you is a request for 2 of the lots for retaining walls exceeding 4 feet in height. What I'm showing you here is an aerial photo from the Bowen Field side of the angle with a Google image. And this is an aerial view, and where the site in question is to our right-hand side. Bowen Field is to the left. This is the A&R plan that's in question. The 2 lots that we're here seeking for retaining walls to be constructed are at the rear of lots 4 and 5, which are the 2 lots from the right-hand side. So 4, where my cursor is, and 5 being this one. These are existing proposed condition site plans of before and after of each of the lots. So this is lot 4. What we're showing here is really just raw land with the one without the wall and one with the retaining wall. What is currently the site is it slopes downwards quite a bit from the street level down to the rear of the property. It drops about 20 feet. What we're looking to do is to really level it up a little bit so that the site can be better developed. And coincidentally, that actually helps somewhat with the water runoff that currently exists from the property down to the Bowen Field. So what you're seeing here is an image of lot 5. On the left-hand side is the existing conditions, and the right is one with a proposed retaining wall. These are photographs of from the Bowen Field side, looking towards the property. As you can see, it's quite steep. Here's an image from Bowen Field towards the property, and it is quite shielded. These are letters that we have submitted from our engineer that discusses the benefits of the changes in grade, where we are leveling it off and reducing the water runoff. And from the property that's currently unmitigated to Bowen Field. The following two slides, one being for Lot 4 and Lot 5, are taken from the city engineer's report. Here, Mr. Daglian indicated that because of the changes in the grade that we're proposing of leveling it off, the flow of runoff will be slowed down since this won't be as steep. So effectively, it's more of a controlled runoff from the property into Bowen Field. So that's for Lot 4, and this is for Lot 5. And these are, again, taken from his report. This is just an image of a sample of a proposed retaining wall that will be installed. And with the filings that we have submitted with the city, there are cross sections of the types that run along the wall. So there are different types and variations, but essentially it's the same type of material, which is this ready rock retaining wall material that's going to be used. So effectively, the changes are, I think the committee wanted more information, that there were inquiries about water runoff from the property to the field. And since then, we provided engineering letters indicating that we'll slow down the runoff, as well as the engineering department confirming that. So with that, I'll leave it back to you and answer any questions that you may have.
Thank you, Mr. Lee.
Thank you.
We'll hear from the planning department next.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. Bear with me as I pull up this presentation. Hopefully everyone can see my screen online. I'll start from the beginning. Again, this is petition. My name is Sandria Berman. I'm a planner for the City of Newton, and this is petition 190-26 for, again, a special permit to allow retaining walls over 4 feet in height. This item was continued from the June 2nd, 2026 meeting. Again, here, just looking at the aerial view, which the petitioner also described, we're looking at 335 Langley Road, which is a part of a 3-lot A&R that was changed into 5 separate lots. The 2 lots that we are looking at tonight, which is the subject of the petition, are lots 4 and 5. Lot 4 consists of 11,117 square feet, and Lot 5 consists of 12,782 square feet, both of which are located in an MR1 district and are buildable lots. The petitioner has already received a tree permit as well as a demolition permit, as you can see from this aerial view that was issued January of this year, and the lots are currently vacant. In terms of zoning relief, the zoning relief remains the same. They're seeking relief to allow retaining walls over 4 feet in height. And in terms of the project updates here, we have the revised site plans that only show the proposed retaining walls existing and proposed on lots 4 and 5. We have revised engineering narratives that the petitioner referred to earlier in their presentation. And we also have a revised engineering memo from the city's engineering department as well. In terms of criteria to consider, this as well has not changed. We have the standard 4 special permit criteria. We also have the specific retaining wall criteria as well. In terms of planning's analysis, the development here at 335 Langley Road, that's now subdivided into lots 4 and 5, does include 2 vacant buildable lots. And again, a tree permit and a demolition permit were previously issued for the site. The revised site plans show proposed retaining walls over 4 feet in height along the rear lines of each lot, as well as a perpendicular retaining wall along the northern side of Lot 5. At the conclusion of this presentation, I will again bring up the site plans just to detail the heights of the walls. The proposed retaining walls along the rear lot lines of Lot 4 and 5 and the side of Lot 5 allow for greater use of the rear of the property and do reduce the slope of the existing grade, reducing the intensity of stormwater runoff to the Bowen Fields and side abutters. At this time, the petitioner has not made a determination on a specific residential use for the site, and should the special permit relief be granted, request a condition be added to the order that allows for a by right development to occur without an amendment to this special permit. A by right residential uses that are allowed in an MR1 district include single and 2-family uses. And again, while a landscape plan was not included with this petition, planning recommends that the petitioner confirm that any retaining wall construction does not impact the tree-related protections and/or mitigation associated with their tree permit. And just in terms of the plan reference and application materials for those viewing from home, all of the materials that are shared here tonight can be viewed on our NewGov portal online with the links here to each of the respective plans that are referenced. I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing my screen just to pull up the site plan once more. All right. Thank you for bearing with me again. So we have here the site plan for Lot 5. And we'll begin here on the rear lot line. We have a 10-foot retaining wall. And here is the perpendicular retaining wall here that measures between 7 feet here at the corner where it meets the 10-foot wall down to 4 feet. Just scrolling down now to Lot 4. We have here the rear retaining wall that runs between 7 and 8 feet in height, 8 feet starting here at the intersection with the retaining wall on Lot 5 and proceeding down to 7 feet, and then connecting with an existing retaining wall right here that's between 4.9 feet and 6.2 feet. There is a retaining wall that you'll notice here, but again, that is on the Lot 3, which is adjacent, so it is not subject to this petition. I'm happy to go over any of these plans, but I'll go ahead and stop sharing my screen and turn it back over to you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Ms. Berman. This is the time when we ask if there are any members of the public who would wish to be heard, ask questions or make comments. Anyone in the chamber here for this project, or if you're on Zoom, if you could raise your hand, either wave wildly at the screen or find your virtual hand and raise that. Right now, I don't see anyone. In the meantime, while I give you still a minute or more, we have had a few other counselors join us via Zoom. Counselor Golden from Ward 7, who's a member of the committee, has joined us. And my colleagues from Ward 3, Counselor Pam Wright and Counselor Julia Malachy, have also joined us on Zoom. Sean Roach, are you going to speak when we bring it into committee? Which I think we can do now. Okay, go right ahead.
Thank you. I am waiting in line to board, so I may not make it through to the vote, but I'd like to move approval. Move to close the public hearing and move approval.
Thank you, Councillor Roach. Bon voyage. We'll hold that motion and vote on it, and note that you're the one who made it and this is in your ward. Councillor Block.
Thank you, Chair. I have some questions for the petitioner. Do you have a schedule for building these retaining walls?
I'm going to defer to Mr. Dorenzo to address that.
Yes, good afternoon. Schedule as a duration of time when they're going to be built. I do not. I'm waiting for permanent approval. And duration, how long it would take to build them? Probably 2 weeks. That answer your question?
I'm sorry, our connection isn't really clear, but am I correct that you don't have a schedule right now for building the retaining walls? Is that right?
That is correct. We're awaiting permit approval.
You're awaiting permit approval.
Correct.
So you're not creating a schedule until you receive the permit approval? Is that what I'm understanding?
That's correct. The block is a lead item. It would be specifically built for the project, and that could be between 4 and 6 weeks to procure the block. So I'm not ordering anything yet.
So do you have plans to construct any building on these lots 4 and 5?
Currently, no.
Okay. So I'm just puzzled why you are going to the trouble of preparing this petition when you don't have plans at the moment to build on these lots. What prompts you to do that?
Well, I'm a developer and I want to make them viable and buildable that I could sell them if need be.
And you think they're not viable and sellable without this approval? the special permit approval to build these retaining walls. Is that what you're saying?
Correct. The lots are currently not level. They slope roughly 18 to 20 feet from front to back.
I'm sorry, our connection is poor, and forgive me. So you're telling me that that it's not viable to sell these lots under the current circumstances?
That's correct. As a raw lot, there's too much sloping in my eyes from front to back.
Okay. So you've got two parcels that you can't sell, even if you wanted to, and this will enable you to sell them.
It would be better to sell, correct, yes.
Okay. I'm a little frustrated and a little perplexed about why we are all spending time on this when you don't have plans to build something as yet. I understand that without retaining walls, you can't build, and with retaining walls, you can. But we're used to seeing a project along with retaining walls. So right now, I'm very reluctant to support this petition. Thank you.
Thank you, Counselor Block. Other comments from committee members? Questions or comments or questions? None? In the moment of silence, I'll just pipe up and say I actually do appreciate Counselor Block's concern. We do usually see a project that's associated with like the physical appearance of the structures. So part of me wishes we could see that, but part of me realizes that this petition is before us just to vote on the retaining walls on two of the lots. It's a narrow focus. That is what's being asked of us. And if, whether it's Mr. Dorenzo or somebody else he sells them to, maybe just be building homes on these lots by right, and we don't have any right to have anything to say about that. If any of them want a special permit, they'll be back to us and we will have something to say about it. But I'm a little torn too. Like I wish we could see more. And, you know, we did see the outlines of some buildings previously that are now not before us. So I have not made up my mind yet. I'm hoping to hear some other questions and comments from people. Councillor Leary.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I also was a little curious why this was all being done separately, but I think I got an answer from the developer. He is not planning on building the lots themselves, it sounds like. He's just preparing them for sale. And of course, that does mean that this won't come before us. They will be built by right. However, in terms of other issues like the stormwater, with our robust stormwater program, I believe that would be handled. And I do believe that it probably might even be an improvement for runoff. But I share my colleagues' I guess I'm a little perplexed about this. And it seems that the reason for it is to not have to have these two developments come before the land use, but to be built by right. That's what I've come to. So if we're comfortable with that, then I think that's what's going on here.
Thank you, Councillor Leary. Councillor Farrell. Other councillors with hands raised, I'm just going to the committee first, but I see Wright and Maliki and Oliver hands, and I'll get to you. Go ahead, Councillor Farrell.
Thank you, Chair. I'm sorry I can't be with you, but I was with you and several other members of the committee when we looked at the lot yesterday, and I feel that the project that's being proposed to us right now is appropriate. I guess I'd like to understand through you why some of the members of this committee are concerned about not knowing what will be built when we have fairly recently, it seems to me, and I'd like to understand if I'm mistaken, some changes in Ward 1 where a petitioner came in and asked us to change the zoning with no plans to do anything. Then we changed it from manufacturing, I believe, to BU2, I think. And a lot of the people, a lot of my colleagues said it was just made it easier. Well, what we're doing tonight is making it easier also. But I don't know, I don't understand why we need to see the plans on this project when we haven't done so quite recently in another. And it's consistency with our rulings that is very important to me, as to you. So I'd just like to understand that. Maybe somebody can help clarify that for me. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Farrell. Are you referring to the Stop and Shop parking lot zone change when you
Yes.
talk about a project in Ward 1?
Yes.
Okay. I wonder, Mr. Temple, would you like to take a stab at answering Councillor Farrell's question?
I certainly can, Chair. I think it's probably more for the committee members, though, if Councillor Farrell is asking for the reasoning behind why members voted a certain way. I mean, I would say that from a legal perspective, I wouldn't view that as precedent setting, because in that instance, it was a zoning change, which is a legislative act versus a quasi-judicial act of the special permit granting authority. So I think it's apples to oranges in some respect, but I appreciate his point from a more practical perspective.
I didn't hear his question as just, I could be wrong, Councillor Farrell, pipe up and correct me, asking committee members why they voted one way on a project or not the other. I thought what you were getting at is what's the rationale behind being consistent on seeing plans or not. And I think on that, Mr. Temple did explain the difference between that Ward 1 project that you raised, which is a different kind of thing.
So, Chair, since you asked, may I
Yes,
respond?
yes, please.
Thank you. I think the issue that is being broached is not a legal one. It is a one where we're saying we want to know what's going to be built before we agree to this request. And I think that's exactly the same thing that we talked about in the Stop and Shop case. I know I specifically asked why there was any need to change this when we didn't know what they were going to do. And I was responded that, well, it just made it easier for them. So I appreciate Council Temple's response, but yeah, I'm just looking for some sort of rationale that we make as a committee, working within the laws, why we aren't consistent. And I don't believe we're being consistent here. Thank you.
Thank you. Another difference I see in this is that in this case, the owner, developer, Mr. Dorenzo, is trying to level the land and install a retaining wall that will need a special permit at some point in time. And if he does it now and levels the land, whether he or somebody else he sells it to, and I'm not sure I would have used the terminology, this makes it easier for me, honestly. If I was the petitioner, that probably wouldn't have been my pitch. But I do think that it makes the land more likely to be desirable for whoever will develop it to do the grading now and to put the retaining walls in that are clearly necessary in order to develop. Maybe easy is the right word. I'm just going to go to some of the other councillors who have their hands up. Councillor Wright.
Thank you. So just a quick question, maybe the petitioner. So he's only doing the retaining wall on these two lots, or one lot that's been made into two. What about the rest of them? Is he just leaving the retaining wall that's in place, or are they coming back for more special permits for the other lots? And then why, and if they're leaving the retaining walls in place, why are those being left in place and not this one? Thank you.
Yeah, I'll say that a site visit was really very helpful in understanding this, and we did that yesterday. Mr. Lee, would you like to address Councillor Wright's questions?
I'll refer to that to Mr. Dorenzo.
Okay, Mr. Dorenzo?
Yes, the lot 1, 2, and 3 currently have an existing retaining wall that is at the current height to retain the earth back on the site project. They are going to be left in place as the property line, the existing property line is only a couple of feet inbound expound of the lot. So yes, they will remain.
The grade change is also much less on those other lots than on lots 4 and 5, from what I could tell.
Thank
That's
you.
correct. That's correct.
All set, Counselor Wright?
Yes,
Okay.
thank you.
Thank you for the question. Counselor Maliki?
Thank you. So I have could we see that aerial again?
I'm sorry, the site plans or an aerial image from the
Aerial image
presentation?
that showed it looked like a cleared lot.
Yes, absolutely. Bear with me just one moment while I pull up that presentation.
Thank you.
Okay. Okay. And, oh, I apologize. I'll click forward.
It's coming.
There we go.
Is that what you're looking for, Counselor Maliki?
Yeah, right. Can that be zoomed in on the lot?
I'm not sure if I can zoom any further on this. This was an image in the presentation. I will see if it's possible. Oh, maybe it is. There we go. Is that helpful? A little bit more helpful? I can try and move.
Yeah, I think so. So, okay, so question for for Mr. Lee, I guess. I'm looking at the tree permit from 2025 to 2026. It appears that there were going to be 70 inches worth of 4 oak trees that you were planning to remove and replace the caliper inches, and 158 trees that were going to be retained. Are the 158 trees being retained still there? Are those that I appear to see some around the edges, but there's not very much uncleared space.
Mr. Dorenzo, would you like to address that? I know you did talk about that with us
Yeah.
yesterday at the site visit.
I'm unaware of the tree permit of retaining 158 trees. I do know that we have a caliber inches that have to go back in the tree permit.
Are there any trees left on the lot?
Within, yes, there are. In the perimeter, yes, there are.
Okay, but you don't know how.
158, that's an unfamiliar number to me.
Okay, so it looks like you got a permit on the strength of this list of trees that you're going to retain and remove, and an actual planting plan, which maybe is consistent with what land use saw previously with, you've got species and numbers of trees you're planning to replant, but it sounds like when you got the permit, was that still when you had the plans to do the 2 buildings that land use previously saw?
I'm not following your question. When I got the permit regarding what?
Well, I mean, basically
The permit was based upon 5 lots.
the tree permit.
Yes.
The tree permit was based
5
on
lots. There were 5 lots shown on the
all
permit.
5 of the lots. Okay, so that I guess makes a little more sense.
Yeah, there are a bunch of trees. I don't have the permit in front of me. I can't tell you how many, but we have to replace back on the property.
Okay, so some of them 158 inches, maybe on the
That might be in total.
lots 1, 2, and 3
Yes.
on the south end. Okay, but
There was 1 tree permit issued for the whole parcel, I do believe.
okay, but you haven't paid any funds because you were planning to replace all
That's correct.
anything you removed
And
on
anything I
site.
can, of course, at the end, I'm gonna have to pay a fund.
Yeah, okay. I guess I'm a little troubled that trees have been cut. It sounds like you're passing on the responsibility of doing the replacement to whoever you sell the lots to, and we don't know when.
Well,
they'll actually get planted. So in the meantime, trees are gone and the city hasn't received any compensation for the loss of the trees. And we
Well-
don't know when that will happen. Am I
Well,
getting that right?
Okay, let me back up in time. First and foremost, I am a developer. I do plan, my intention with these lots 4 and 5, I can't tell you now because it could be sold. I could retain them. I don't know what I'm gonna do with them. I'm here before you tonight just to make a viable lot so I can at least market them to be sold. And if they are sold, the tree replacement is gonna have to be part of the contingent. They're gonna have to go back on the lot.
Yeah, well, the whoever, somebody, if you sell them to somebody else, they're certainly going to encounter that when they come in for
course.
their building
Most
permit.
definitely. Yeah, so whatever trees are required to go on the parcel are gonna go back. And what they don't is they have to pay into a fund.
Yeah, I guess I'm kind of uncomfortable that we allow for the possibility of trees to come down and we don't know when this building is actually going to happen. But
All set, Councillor Maliki?
yeah, I guess so.
We definitely hear your concern.
I don't have a vote here anyway on land use. So.
The trees were removed before a request for special permits was filed, as far as
Yeah.
I know. But as we are reminded frequently by the law department and the planning department and the clerk's office, the job for us in the land use committee is not
Right.
to harp on the tree ordinance, because that does come into place later, and it's not.
Yeah.
I mean, I think it's always good for us to think about trees, honestly. Of course I do. But that will happen at a later stage, we assume and hope. Councillor Oliver, you were next. President Oliver. And by the way, City Councillor Brian Golden has joined us in the chamber.
Thank you, Madam Chair. If I may, just real quickly, shout out to Councillor Farrell. The real crux of the topic in Ward 1 wasn't a building or a development project. It was the reason behind the change of zone was because of the use tables. They wanted to allow different uses that were allowed by right in BU2, I think they ended up going for, as opposed to manufacturing. So I think these two projects are significantly different from that perspective. Because there was no plan to build or sell the lots or anything like that over here in Ward 1. But I am really curious with this project. My interest is really piqued because not because of, separating the two instances of changing, getting special permit approval for retaining walls separate from the project that goes on the lot. But what did catch my interest is what they're seeking relief, or part of the council order would be to allow them to build by right and not come back to us. Could somebody explain that to me just a little bit? Like, first off, make sure I heard that right. I don't know if that's for planning or the petitioner or both. I don't know.
Let's start with planning. Ms. Berman, would you like to take a stab at that?
Sure. Thank you, Madam Chair. Well, in response to the curiosity, the condition itself just outlines the allowance of the petitioner to build a by right project with which in an MR1 would be a single family or a two-family residential development by right without having to come back before the committee for an amendment to said special permit. Given that the site is largely a vacant site. If there was a proposed structure on the site, on this site plan, in addition to the retaining walls, my understanding is that the commissioner would not see, if there were any changes made to that proposed structure, that would require an amendment. I don't believe that the commissioner would be able to allow that by a consistency. I hope that that answers your question to some extent. I'm happy to pivot over to law if they'd like to add anything.
Yeah, I appreciate that. And I do wonder then, as a follow-up, that for me, that gives me great pause. Because I don't have an issue with the developer, making the lots buildable at all or sellable from that perspective. I don't like the idea that we're splitting out the approval of a special permit for retaining walls and then basically saying, and then you can build, whatever by right, because what if they build something that would require a special permit otherwise? Like, maybe I'm just kind of conflating an issue that isn't there, but I really don't like that condition being added to the council order, like, at all. Am I missing something on that front? And now might not be the time to go into, if it's a long drawn out thing, Chair, like, I'm happy to follow up with the legal department, but it just doesn't make sense to me, the way that this was kind of coming together.
I'm not sure if this has been made clear, but I do not believe what they're doing is asking for a special permit for retaining walls along the rear of 2 lots and then giving them permission to do anything they want on the 5 lots later. That's not what is before us. Before us is, will we approve the walls over 4 feet high on the back of those lots? If they want to build something by right, whether that's Mr. Dorenzo or whoever he sells to, they can do that. If they want to build something that needs a special permit, they will be back to us. There's not a blanket approval here just because they've put the wall in. A development of those sites, the way I understand it, is still totally within the purview of the Land Use Committee if they need anything that doesn't fit with our zoning. We have just been joined in the chamber by Councillor Tariq Lucas, so full
All right,
house.
fantastic. I so appreciate that clarification, Chair, because that makes so much more sense to me.
I was worried that you were
Yeah.
thinking that this wall was going to let them give them carte blanche to do anything in the future. So again,
Yeah.
if Mr. Lee or Mr. Temple want to add to what I said, please feel free to pipe in. That's just my understanding.
No, I will just pipe in, Chair, to say you got that absolutely right. And so it does not give them carte blanche to go do anything that requires a special permit. That would come back. It just means that by right, if it's a by right development, they can move forward with that after approval of the retaining wall.
Fantastic. Thank you. And then just one other clarification, because it's I was kind of one of the counselors kind of behind the need for the retaining wall modification in our zoning. And I do wonder, does the fact that we're looking to put in or approve right through the special permit retaining walls, and then separately we might get a development project here, at least one would hope we're going to get a development project here. Does that have any bearing on the measurements from structure height to original grade? Because I would hate for all of a sudden, because it's in 2 permits, to kind of, I don't want that to be kind of a negation of the fact that, the original grade is what's currently on or should be measured from the existing property as it is today, not what it would look like after the retaining wall is in and then the lot is regraded. I'm just kind of curious.
Correct. As a member of ZAP, you are so right on that. And I'll just say, and then Attorney Lee is going to address this, particularly about the intentions in this site. The wall is at the back of 2 of the lots. There is right now, as somebody pointed out, this is right now an empty lot. There are no structures on it. There are piles of dirt and there are holes. We did ask at the last meeting for a grading plan, and it looked to me that what they're calling a civil plan or an updated civil plan has the new grade. So it shows the existing grades and it shows new grades, which are mostly towards the rear of the lot. Don't know where they plan to put the houses, probably not there, but yeah, your point is taken. Mr. Lee, would you like to address President Oliver's point?
I think you're both correct. The original grade is what it was existing, not the proposed. So a later by right development, whether it's a single or two-family house, will have to follow the original grade, not the proposed grade with the retaining walls. And then just for some clarification for counselors who may not have known or heard the whole story, we do have 5 by right lots. Each one can be developed as it stands, with or without the retaining walls. It just will look different based on the topography, either a single or two-family house as it is today. So whether the special permit is or is not granted, something can be built on these lots. It's just that we're here to make the 2 lots a little bit flatter. And there actually is a public benefit to that, because currently it slopes very steeply from the street, that being Langley Road, towards the backyard, which is about 18 to 20 feet below the street. The engineering department confirmed that the steep grade allows the runoff, the surface runoff, to be at a higher velocity. By flattening out the grade with the retaining wall, it will slow that surface water runoff into the field. So there is a benefit to this. All we're doing is leveling up 2 of the 5 lots. And that's pretty much what we're doing.
To your point, though, Councillor President Oliver, if you were to drive by, or anyone else, or anyone who went to one of the 2 site visits that have happened, the existing grade would be something that has been put on paper by a surveyor. It's not what you see on the site now, which again are mounds and heaps and holes. The existing grade isn't what's actually there. It's what was under that before the structure or structures were removed, and it's on paper. So yes, it would have to go back to the existing grade.
That's really the crux of it. Otherwise, like I'm supportive of the notion of what's going on here, given the 2 questions I've just asked and the responses I'm getting. As long as original grade is the way it currently exists, like right now, before the retaining walls, and then whatever fill or modification to the level is on the lots. So I do appreciate the time, and thanks for the answers. I do appreciate it. Thanks so much, Chair.
It's always good for us to be reminded about any changes that have been made in the last few years to our zoning ordinance. So thanks for bringing it up. Councillor Leary, followed by Councillor Block.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. This has been a good discussion. Despite it's the somewhat unorthodox process here, I fully intend to support this project. I do think that it's going in the right direction, and we certainly, I'm fine with a by right project being built there. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Leary. Councillor Block, you might have the final word.
Well, thank you very much.
I don't see any other hands.
I detect an inconsistency between what Mr. Lee has told us and what Mr. Is it DeVos? I'm sorry, the developer. Mr. Lee described.
Dorenzo.
I'm sorry?
Dorenzo.
Sorry about that. So Mr. Lee tells us that these lots are buildable. It's just different. A different kind of structure could be built if this retaining wall special permit is approved. Mr. Dorenzo tells us that these lots are not saleable in their current condition. I don't like this conflict. I don't like this difference of information. I don't really know why this is in front of us. I have a question for Mr. Temple, and that is this condition that Councillor Oliver focused on, that a by right structure could be built in the future after this special permit the special permit is granted. why is this condition necessary? Why? I mean, we never have a condition that, well, you can build by right after we approve whatever it is we approve. By right actions don't come before us. So what is behind the necessity of having this condition?
Yeah, that's a good question, Counselor. And I guess the way I view it is it's not a necessity. To me, the default here is if the site plan is only showing the retaining wall and that's all that's being approved, then that in and of itself means by right development will be allowed to move forward. I think there was some question mark on the inspectional services side of how to deal with this because it's not something they normally see. So the idea of putting in that condition was simply so that everybody had a clearer understanding of what the situation was. I would certainly say if that condition was not there, it would have the same impact.
Well, that's interesting that you think it's superfluous, but we're considering it nonetheless.
Well, I guess I would also say to that, Counselor, if you were thinking of approving this special permit without that condition or with an affirmative condition that any by right development has to come back for a special permit, I would have real concerns legally about that.
No, that's not
Yeah.
that's not behind my question at all.
Yeah.
I don't want anyone who's building by right to have to come back here for anything under any circumstances. That's not the question. I just find it very puzzling that we're considering a condition that our law department is telling us is superfluous. Doesn't feel right. Mr. Temple, will this require a 2/3 vote or a majority vote in the full council?
Standard 2/3.
Thank you. Those are my questions.
Councillor Maliki, I see your hand up. I'm just going to ask if there are 3 members of the committee who haven't spoken yet, and if any of them would like to speak. Councillor Golden, go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And just in an attempt to harmonize the 2 points that Councillor Block raised, the developer indicating that he's seeking the relief for the retaining walls to make a buildable lot that is far easier to build, to market, to use. And then what I heard from Mr. Lee is that, well, whether there's a retaining wall or not, they are buildable lots, just of a different character, in a less desirable character. That's how I approach this in my mind, and I think I'm asking the developer, Mr. Lee, is that how one harmonizes the 2 points made by Mr. Dorenzo and Mr. Lee?
I am nodding as you're speaking. That's exactly it. Something can be built. And there's a lot of great points that have been made tonight, to President Oliver's point, we still have to calculate the height based on the original grade, whether there is or is not a retaining wall. So there's something that can be built, but it just allows an easier build, a friendlier use of the land, reduces the surface runoff, and it just makes the land a little bit better and more usable. So
I appreciate that. Thank you, Mr. Lee. And I just want to point out the conversation, the dialogue involving the council president and Chair Kelly was very helpful in gelling the issues for me. So I feel very comfortable supporting moving forward with the petitioner's request. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Golden. And I also appreciate the thoughtful linguistics you applied to your question, because I think it made things clearer to some people. Anything? No? Councillor Maliki.
Yeah, I'm just curious, what is the mechanism by which the previous existing grade is flagged or made aware to the ultimate purchaser, developer of this, if it takes 5 years, 10 years, who knows what, personnel can change. What's the mechanism by which this would show up when somebody comes into ISD for their building permit by
The
right?
site plan, the civil plan with the surveys, which have been done by a registered surveyor, show the grades, the existing grades.
Right,
And
but
those
how does,
documents have been filed as part of this, as part of these 5 lots.
I would
And-
also.
Go ahead, Ms.
Sorry.
Berman, thank you.
I would also add, Councillor Malecki, that there will be, that should this special permit be approved, the associated plans would be referenced in the decision. And special permits are always flagged in our NewGov permitting portal. So if there were to be a by right development put forward, the building commissioner would take a look at the special permit. He would look at the existing grades and the proposed site plan, and that would be factored into his decision when looking at the by right development.
okay, I sure hope that happens. All right, thank you.
Well, then blame somebody else.
That is how it happens. Like, I
Right.
have to have faith that that's how it happens. I don't see any other hands up. I'm not sure where the other, was that? I don't know where that background noise was coming from. I don't think there's someone who wants to speak. I don't see somebody else. Okay, everyone who has wanted to speak has spoken. We have a motion on the floor. We can close the public hearing. Somebody else could make that motion because Councillor Roach is probably on his plane by now. Councillor Leary? All in favor of closing the public hearing, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
And I'm going to ask if there's anyone opposed. That comes after the ayes. One opposed? No one else? Any abstentions? Great. Okay. Let's take a look at the findings and conditions.
Chair, can I just speak?
Yes, sir.
I just want to say I will abstain when it comes to a vote. Thank you.
Okay, yeah, thanks.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just going to pull this back to the top. I apologize. Hopefully everyone can see my screen. We have here the draft order. And this is a special permit site plan approval to allow construction of retaining walls over 4 feet in height. We have here the findings under item 1 that the site is an appropriate location for the retaining walls over 4 feet in height on lots 4 and 5, as they allow for greater use of the rear portion of each of the respective lots. Item 2, that the retaining walls over 4 feet in height will not adversely affect the neighborhood because the retaining walls with the highest elevations are located at the rear of the property and are not readily visible from the street. Under item 3, the retaining walls over 4 feet in height will not be a nuisance or serious hazard to vehicles or pedestrians because they are located at the rear of lots 4 and 5 and the side of lot 5 parallel to the northern side lot line and do not impact parking or pedestrian traffic. Under item 4, that access to the site over streets is appropriate for the types and numbers of vehicles involved. Under item 5, that the lot presents challenging topography, which limits the use of the property such that it could not be improved without the implementation of retaining walls over 4 feet in height to utilize the rear of the site. Under item 6, the retaining walls over 4 feet in height will not adversely impact adjacent property, the neighborhood, or the public as they are primarily located at the rear of the property. And the retaining wall setback to the northern side of abutter is more than double what would otherwise be required by right. Under item 7, that the retaining walls over 4 feet in height are the minimum structures necessary to allow the subject property to be reasonably utilized and provide structural stability for the rear of the site to be fully utilized. We have here the petition number, the petitioner. We have the location as 335 Langley Road. However, we also did include these separate lots identified here, lot 4 and 5, with their respective square footage. We have the address of the owner. I'm going to go ahead right now and take out the 2-family dwelling because this will remain a vacant lot. And again, the relief specified here to allow retaining walls over 4 feet in height. And again, here we have our standard plan referencing condition for lot 4 and lot 5. Under item 2, I'll go ahead and read this condition. This is the condition we discussed. Any future by right structural development on the site shall not require an amendment to this special permit, provided said development does not impact or alter the proposed retaining walls as shown on the site plan referenced in condition 1. We have here the standard building permit condition under item 3. And finally, under item 4, the standard final inspection and certificate of occupancy condition. I'm happy to circle back, but I will go ahead and stop sharing my screen.
Thank you, Ms. Berman. we're going to take a vote in half a minute. Because I expressed sort of a waffling earlier, I'm just now going to go on the record by saying I really appreciated hearing from everybody because it has clarified my thinking more on this. Though I prefer to see a final plan, I think the focus for us today is really on the wall. And I'm now having the confidence that protections are in place in the future in terms of adhering to the tree ordinance, in terms of engineering, reviewing the grading and the training and the drainage, in terms of ISD being sure that the height is appropriate and the setbacks are met. And if any of that isn't, they can apply again. So I now feel more confident for voting in favor of this tonight. Curtis, let's take a roll call vote.
Madam Chair?
Yes, sir.
Sorry, I have a question about the conditions.
Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
I would like condition number 2 removed, and I'm wondering if the petitioner would allow that.
Could you pull up conditions again, Ms. Berman, so we can see what condition 2 that Councillor Block is referring to is about?
Here, and I believe it's right here under item 2.
Just for the record, you could read that out, please.
Sure. Any future by right structural development on the site shall not require an amendment to this special permit, provided said development does not impact or alter the proposed retaining walls as shown on the site plans referenced in condition 1. And condition 1 is the site plan referenced, the 2 site plans.
Thank you. And I ask for its removal on the grounds that it is superfluous, and this is not something that I'm aware of that we've included at any time. So, Mr. Petitioner, Mr. Lee, whoever.
I think it's definitely special to this thing. I would like to hear from Mr. Lee and also from Mr. Temple. Mr. Lee.
I asked that it remain, and I think it's analogous to Councillor Malaki's point. Owners change, people change. We would like to have documents to memorialize the intent and the understanding. Just as we have an existing condition site plan showing the existing topography before the changes are made, we want to document that if the Commissioner of Inspectional Services were to review a building permit application, he or she will have the ability to do so without having to come back to land use or the City Council. So I would like for it to be expressly written. Thank you.
Mr. Temple, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I certainly recommend keeping it. I will reiterate what I said before to Councillor Block, which is without it, that will still be the status quo, but there is no harm in clarifying it and making it clear and easier for everyone to understand. And it also gives some protections to the city here to say, even maybe in the future, there's a by right project, but it has so much impact or is so close to the retaining wall that, we want to say that it implicates this special permit and require them to come back to the committee. So I think this puts the city on the strongest footing as well.
Well, I appreciate hearing that. Councillor Block, do you want to make a motion to eliminate this, or do you feel okay going forward with it as part of it? You're welcome to make a motion or an amendment to remove that, and we can vote on
Why
that.
don't we go on the record? I'll move that we remove condition 2, and I sense the committee is willing to include it. This seems to me to be precedential.
And I think it's important that you records.
And I'm very uncomfortable doing that without an explicit discussion. I mean, Councillor Temple referred to if a by right structure implicates the retaining wall, that under those circumstances, it would be expected to come back to us. That's very interesting. I'd never really thought about that. And that this statement would mean that would be foreclosed. I mean, that's what I'm understanding from Mr. Temple.
No,
but
I'm saying this statement allows for that because it says a by right project that does not impact or alter the proposed retaining wall. So that will give the Commissioner of Inspectional Services, this language will give the Commissioner of Inspectional Services leeway to say, well, I have before me a by right project, but given its impact onto the retaining wall, it's going to require an amendment to the special permit.
Okay, thank you for that explanation. I'll stay with my motion. Thank you.
So Counselor Block is making a motion to amend the conditions to eliminate the second clause, correct? Let's take a vote on Counselor Block's amendment. Curtis, could you do roll call on that too?
Counselor Block,
Aye.
You're in favor of the motion to remove number 2.
Counselor Farrell,
No.
Counselor Golden, Counselor Irish,
No.
Counselor Leary,
No.
Counselor Lucas,
Abstain.
and Counselor Kelly.
No. But good to have gone.
Motion fails.
Followed that. Okay, so we're back to making a motion to approve the project with the conditions before us, including number 2. Ms. Maliki, we're ready to vote.
I just had a suggestion on the wording of that clause. Maybe what's troubling
done.
might be that it's kind of a double negative, and if it were reworded to a modification to the special permit shall be required if the proposed project would impact the retaining wall. If it were made in a positive sense, that might be more obvious what it means. Just a suggestion.
Ms. Berman, do you have thoughts on that? I think that most of the committee didn't have a problem with the wording, so.
I would specifically defer to law on the language used in the order. I would probably defer to them just to confirm the language. I don't know if Attorney Temple wants to speak to any changes to the language.
I mean, we can take another look at it before it goes to full council, and we'll make sure it's worded in the most appropriate way to have the intent that was described here tonight.
Thank you. The fewest double negatives do usually make things clear. Thanks for the suggestion, Ms. Maliki, and thank you, Mr. Temple, for saying you'll take a look at it before it comes to the full council. Okay, we're ready to vote on this.
Counselor Block,
No.
Counselor Farrell,
Aye.
Counselor Golden, Counselor Irish,
Aye.
Counselor Leary,
Aye.
Counselor Lucas,
Abstain.
Counselor Kelly.
Aye.
The motion passes.
What's the final count, please? Including abstentions and absences and noes?
5 to 1 to 1.
2-1, because it needs to add up to 8. And that was 5 to 1 to 1 would be 7.
5 to 1 to 1 with Counselor Roach not voting.
Just want to be sure we've got it down. Okay, thank you, everyone. That was a little bit of a struggle. The next and final item tonight is number 131-26, a request for a special permit to allow 16 attached single-family dwellings with associated dimensional and parking relief at 93, 103, and 0 Thurston Road. We're going to hear from planning first on this tonight, who can give a nice background on the progress of this, how many times it's been before us and what the changes are. And then we'll hear from the petitioner to fill in any blanks that we don't hear from planning. Ms. Berman.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Again, this is petition 131-26, and it is a special permit site plan approval to allow 14 single-family attached dwellings, associated dimensional relief and parking waivers. This petition was opened on April 14th, continued to May 12th, and then is returning this evening. Again, just a quick recap on the aerial view here. This petition does include 3 abutting lots, 0, 103, and 93 Thurston Road, which the petitioner proposes to combine via an A&R into a single parcel that's 49,929 square feet. It is located in a multi-residence 1 district. It is just south of Boylston Street, which is Route 9, and within a half mile of the Elliott Street Green T-stop. The existing lots were improved with a landscaper's office, a surface parking facility, and a single-family dwelling circa 1920. The surrounding neighborhood is primarily residential with single, 2, and multi-family dwellings. And immediate abutting districts include a public use district to the west, single residence 3 district to the north, and a multi-residence 2 district to the southeast. And the topography of the site is primarily level, and there are 3 existing curb cuts that do provide access to each of the lots from Thurston Road. This petition, the relief for this petition has remained largely the same. They're still seeking relief for the single-family attached use. They're also seeking dimensional relief for reduced rear setbacks to waive lot area per unit and lot coverage. They're also seeking the same number of relief items for parking as well. Just another reminder again for the voting threshold for this petition. The department notes that this special permit petition does meet the standard for a simple majority vote because the proposed multifamily development, which is the single family attached, it proposes to increase the housing density located within a half mile of the Green Line and includes affordable units as well. In terms of the criteria, consider that the site is an appropriate location for the proposed development, that the proposed development will not adversely impact the neighborhood, nor will it be a nuisance or serious hazard to vehicles or pedestrians, that access to the sites is appropriate for the numbers of vehicles, the type and numbers of vehicles involved, and that literal compliance with the dimensional setback requirements for parking stalls and driveways, driveway entrances width, maneuvering aisle width, and perimeter screening and lighting requirements is impracticable due to the nature of the use or the location, size, frontage, depth, shape, or grade of the lot, or that such exceptions would be in the public interest or in the interest of safety, protection, or environmental features. And finally, that the dimensional setback requirements for driveways and parking stalls for single-family attached dwellings specifically is also impractical for the same reasons listed above. In terms of project updates, we do have revised materials from the petitioner, including updated site plans that were revised through 6/16/2026, revised architectural plans as well, and a landscape concept plan that was added. In terms of the significant site plan changes, and we can look at this shortly after the end of this presentation on the site plan, there's the reduction in the number of proposed units from 16 to 14 as well. And this also is a reduction in the number of affordable units from 3 to 2. There's a reduction in the number of proposed buildings from 8 to 7, a reduction in the number of proposed curb cuts along Thurston Road from 6 to 3. The plans are now compliant with the front and side setbacks, which are 25 feet. And there's also a reduction in the number of proposed parking stalls from 32 to 29 stalls. In terms of planning analysis, the site is an appropriate location for the proposed single-family attached uses. As once combined, the lot will be amongst the largest in the neighborhood, and it is located in a multi-residence district adjacent to public transit with a mix of different housing types and sizes. The project is compliant with stories, height, lot size, frontage, and open space. The units will be broken up into 7 2.5-story buildings, which will be contextually similar in height and mass to other abutting residential structures nearby. Though the site density will increase, requiring relief for lot area per unit, it also provides a net benefit of 2 inclusionary units and 12 market rate units, contributing to the city's goals of providing greater diversity of housing options, particularly those affordable units. The project does need several items of relief for the rear setback, lot coverage, lot area per unit, and dimensional relief for driveways and parking stalls. Planning does note that while this design breaks up the mathing of both the structures and paved areas, this results in limitations on the parking locations, the driveway width, and driveway placement options. Planning has requested that the petitioner include additional items on their site plan, including proposed transformer locations, snow and storage locations, and I believe the petitioner will speak to these items during their presentation. Planning has also requested an updated inclusionary zoning proposal for this project. We've also requested a turning radius plan to ensure adequate vehicular access and maneuverability of these eastern and western driveways. The petitioner believes that they will be able to make some modifications to the site plans that will allow them to meet those minimum width requirements, and they can speak to that later this evening. And finally, planning does advise that the petitioner include a stamped A&R plan that is required for engineering review. And finally, we have here just the plan reference application materials. Again, for those at home that want to review these materials, they can be found via the NewGov application, as well as the specific links that are included here to the respective plans. I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing my screen and pull up the site plans just to do a quick peek at those. Thank you for bearing with me. We have here the revised proposed site plan. And again, you'll see that the number of units has been reduced on the site, 16 to 14 units, and the buildings have been reduced by one. There's one less building here. There's still a mix of single, 2, and 3 unit buildings across the site. There is compliance now with the front setbacks and the sides 25-foot setbacks. However, the rear setback, you'll see here, the building, I believe, is 19, and I apologize, the font is rather small. 19.3 feet here would be the rear setback that they are requiring relief for. There's also a reduction in the number of parking stalls overall. Oops, sorry about that. But we do have some parking stalls that are within the setbacks and requiring relief. But in terms of compliance, the project is compliant with stories, heights, lot size, frontage, and open space. I'm happy to leave this site plan up. I can stop sharing my screen, turn it over to the petitioner. If they'd like me to keep it up, I'm happy to do so.
Mr. Morris, would it be helpful to you if she left the site plan up, or are you going to do this part zoomed into, or what? Okay, thank you. Thank you, Ms. Berman. Mr. Morris, you're up.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the committee. For the record, my name is Terry Morris. I'm an attorney with offices at 57 Elm Road in Newtonville, where I reside. And I'm here representing the petitioner, Hillside Development, and my client, Danius Cooper, who is the principal of Hillside Development. I want to thank Sonia for her balanced report summarizing the significant changes that we've made to the site plan in direct response to the concerns that were expressed by the neighborhood at the last meeting and conveyed to the committee and us as well by email. I would point out that those changes were not insignificant. It took us more than 2 months actually to get back to see you, largely because we had to make sure the plans were consistent. I do want to call out, I see that the plans are up. My colleague, Sean, my colleague is basically running the screen at my direction. I want to call to your attention to certain things that were pointed out in the memorandum. The planning had recommended that the petitioner provide additional information on the site plan regarding 3 different things. One was snow storage, one was trash removal, and deal with accessibility and safety for two-way traffic and proposed circulation. I sent an email out with an explanation that I'd like to share with the committee this evening. First of all, with regard to trash, there is no central trash removal storage space on the site. The trash will be treated as it would with any other homeowner, where the trash would be stored in their garages until collection day and then basically brought out for collection. So there's no trash site to be shown on the site. The second was snow storage. The petitioner has confirmed that snow storage will be these will be condominiums. The snow storage will be, snow removal will be handled by the condominium association, and the provision is that for that period of time in which the client, the petitioner has control of the site and is expected in the condominium dockets themselves, that should there be sufficient snowfall that would exceed the capacity of the site to store it, that snow would be removed by a independent contractor. As it exists, there are areas at the end of the east driveways with sufficient store area of modest storms, as we most often have experienced. With respect to circulation, let's see. Oh, there was one other thing talking about the location of transformers. The response to that is, it's our experience in dealing with Eversource, that they will put the transformers wherever they deem is most accessible to them. So it's really serves no purpose for us to locate it on the site. However, it's most likely that it would probably be located most accessible in the southeast corner of the site. Trevor, if you can point that out. Perhaps can you blow up that, can you expand on that screen so more of the site plan is shown, less of the street? That's the southeast corner of the site, and obviously that would be the most accessible point for Eversource to locate. One other concern for additional information had to do with circulation within the site. There was some question that the design of the buildings, some of the front steps to each of the buildings, in some cases, there was some concern that they may compromise the width of the driveways. It's important to note that the design considerations for parking facilities, and I must digress for a moment, because as many as 5 of these zoning relief that is necessary is directly as a result of what I think is an erroneous interpretation by the Commissioner of Inspectional Services about what constitutes a parking facility. It is not defined in the zoning ordinance. And he has, as is noted in the memorandum, he has determined that because there are more than 5 cars accessible by a common driveway, that constitutes a parking facility. Without burdening you with my experience, I have been dealing with zoning ordinance for half a century. And I did some research back in 2011. In fact, parking facilities were defined, as was a parking lot defined. Somehow, when you recodify things, those definitions, if you look now, those definitions are reserved. It's interesting to note that a parking lot at that time was defined as anything that has provided parking for cars except for accessory parking, residential accessory parking. That definition, if it were still in the ordinance today, would eliminate at least a half a dozen of the requirements that are required, because we're treating this as a parking facility. However, we have provided, for the most part, we have divided 24 to 25 foot wide driveways. The dimensional controls for a parking lot or parking facility requires a backup aisle of 24 feet. It's important to note that those places where that might be impacted by the steps leading up to the porch of each of these units, that the garages, the driveways are at least 24 to 25 feet wide at that point, which provides the required drop aisle width back out space that would be required for a parking facility. In addition, you can see on the site plan, Trevor, you could point out the 5x9 turnouts at the end of each of these driveways has been provided as well. I suggested that with this information, which was not made available at the time the memorandum was created, should be sufficient to provide assurance that the circulation within the site should proceed as is anticipated and not require us to provide turning radii out of each of these garages. One of the things I'm not sure that was mentioned, of course, was the compliance with the sustainability. I'm not sure that was mentioned in the presentation, but it certainly was heavily mentioned in the planning department's memo. Sustainability. This project is subject to those requirements and is employing energy efficient housing and appliances required for projects over 20,000 square feet. The petitioner is also proposing all electric LEED Silver certified development with a LEED Energy Star certification for each and every unit. All units will include an EV ready parking stall, heat pumps for hot water heaters and other appliances. Project also proposes to meet the specified energy code and the city's fossil fuel free ordinance pertaining to HERS ratings and sustainable design and materials for all of the elements in the building. Obviously, with the interest in sustainability these days, I think it's important to make sure that that is on the record. In addition to the changes that we made every attempt to provide this information as early as possible to the neighborhood. And with the cooperation of Ward Councilor Irish, we were able to compile a list of 50 email addresses and sent out copies of the plans a week ago, to the neighbors so that they might look at those plans at their leisure. And if they had any questions, we then followed that up with a Zoom meeting yesterday with the same invitations to the same people to participate after having had the opportunity to look at the plans with any questions they may have, so that I could properly and appropriately answer those questions. I believe that that meeting was attended by approximately 20 participants at the time. And there were a number of issues that arose then. I do see some people then that were present at that hearing. One of the concerns expressed by several people who participated was the pathway. Trevor, if you control the site plan, I'm not sure that does the site plan show the pathway?
It doesn't. The pathway is actually on the adjoining property.
This is a pathway that runs along the west edge of the property. It is a pathway that has been there for decades. And it is a pathway that, with some degree of pride, the Lupien family has, because they own the property next door as well, which is not subject to this petition, but that pathway has been made. The neighborhood has been provided access from the back of sidewalk. Trevor, if you could show the proximity back of sidewalk, raise that a little. From the back of sidewalk, running up that side lot line to a point where the pathway then takes a left-hand turn and goes out to Ronwood Road. It has been used freely by the neighborhood. It is considered to the point where it's considered an easement. There was a request made of the petitioner to actually, trying to make that pathway more usable, to actually provide an easement running along the western edge of our property on our property, the development property, of 1 foot. That would then make that, allow that easement to be widened, or that pathway to be widened in practice. While it's not shown in the plan, we have proposed that there be a condition in the board order that would require that 1 foot easement be shown or be granted to allow for that the neighborhood to continue use of that that favored pathway, excuse me. I think that includes the, there was one concern I think I really must address, and that it was pointed out that this property complies with all of the setbacks except for that area. Blow it up if you would, Trevor, to the max. To the max. There you see that. That is one corner of one unit that is approximately 20 feet wide by 5 feet deep, that actually crosses the setback line, or enters into the setback area. There's almost 700 feet, linear feet of lot line that surrounds this property. That comprises less than 20. That's less than 3%. The response that was now I would also point out something was stated in the memorandum, and it relates to the circumstances for granting waivers. We truly believe that this waiver is de minimis, but nonetheless necessary, and particularly because the requirements set forth in the ordinance, which are quoted, basically says that there are a number of reasons for granting the relief, and we believe that it deals with the shape of the lot, the location, and various other things that all apply in this particular case, particularly since that where that crosses the setback line, there's still 19 feet of setback. It's important to note that the setbacks for a two-family house are 15 feet. And it's also important to note that that particular unit and that setback line runs up to the base of a 20-foot sheer ledge wall. And so if there's any basis for granting relief of a setback, which in this case has both a horizontal and a vertical element to it, I think that reasonably speaking, I think the committee and the council could find ways to, appropriate to grant that setback. Since that, and then I'm sure you'll hear tonight from the neighbor who had expressed concern about it at our meeting yesterday. With that, that will conclude my presentation, and I will be ready to answer any questions the committee may have in response to public testimony.
Thank you, Mr. Morris. Now is the part of this meeting that the public hearing, we hear from members of the public. I assume some of you people in the chamber might be here to make comments of 3 minutes. You can step up to that microphone, and if you're on Zoom, raise your virtual hand. So we'll start in here. There's a timer up on the screen that will count you down to 3 minutes. Just
Okay.
give us your name and address, please, sir.
I'm Lee Fisher, live at 954 Chestnut Street in Upper Falls. I want to reference the assessor's map that Councilor Irish put on each of your desks, which shows in the middle the property, the Lupien property adjacent to the Thurston Road project, 66 Rockland Place. And the path that Mr. Morris talked about is shown in the assessor's map. The gray line, narrow line that joins Rockland Place to Thurston Road. And as Mr. Morris said, it's a very critical pathway for the community to go down to Emerson Playground and so on. So we appreciate the fact that the petitioner has agreed to put his new fence 1 foot from the property line, east of the property line, and offer an easement. And if this were accompanied by a parallel easement by the owners of 66 Rockland Place, the public use of this right-of-way could become guaranteed into perpetuity.
Mr. Fisher, could you speak a little bit closer to the microphone so we can all hear you well? Thank you.
All right.
And you get recorded well that way too.
For those who weren't on yesterday's call, Laura Lupien Oaks responded to my concern about the easement with a strong commitment by the family to preserve public access through their property at 66 Rockland Place. So this was reassuring. I would make one point to Mr. Morris. The easement should go the full length north to the cliff. It's possible that the owners of 66 Rockland Place may want to relocate the pathway to the north, in which case it could go right up against the sheer ledge wall. So in conclusion, I just asked the Land Use Committee to require the formalization of this easement offer as a condition for your approval. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Fisher. Just come right up to the microphone. Again, just give us your name and address.
Jianguo Ma, 61 White Pine Road, is the north neighbor. So eventually from the last hearing, so the neighbors eventually concern the density. So with this lot, the density, just to remind everybody, is 5-fold, more dense than the neighbors. So the 61 White Pine is 16,000. They are single family, and here is just 3-fold. Is 16 or 15 units. So again, you can see they move the unit 5 to the middle of the layout. So it's eventually you can see there are already violation of the zone code, and you can see from the layout, the blue shed is old of the setback envelope line. So including the construction and also the patio, more than half outside of the setback line. And also I wanted to mention, we discussed last hearing. So because the system went pine and the level is at least 2 floors taller. Every raining time, there are flooding, through the rock. That's also when the new building is too close. That's definitely the concern of the safety. So we really, propose strongly, completely remove the unit 5. That's also reduce the density and also, avoid any, violation and also any safety risk. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Somebody else from the chamber like to speak, and then I'll go to Zoom for a few people. Come forward, sir.
Good evening, Victor Totaro, 60 White Pine Road. First of all, I want to thank, the developer for taking out those units, which were, I believe, the ones we requested, 13 and 5. The only problem was, I'm not quite sure we got the relief we needed. I'm not sure if the other units got actually bigger. I didn't know if there was any way of having unit number 12 and number 4 pushed a little more towards Thurston Street. We are still going from 3 buildings on that lot, or the 3 lots, to 14, which is a fairly drastic for the people that have been in the neighborhood for 35, 40 years. It's still fairly drastic. So I didn't know if that would be under consideration. Also, I know on the Zoom meeting last night, we talked about trying to keep some privacy, especially in the winter months. So I didn't know if there was some buffering that could be done. One of the other neighbors, a few of the other neighbors that couldn't be here tonight, they did have concerns about the drainage. I don't know if that was really addressed on that path. So I want to kind of throw that out there. But thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Totaro. I'm going to go to a few people who have their hands raised on Zoom. The first is Geraldine.
Here we go. Sorry about that. I was trying to unmute myself.
You've got it.
Okay. Geraldine Catacone, 56 Rockland Place, one of the abutters to the project. As Victor mentioned, Terry, we spoke last night in a Zoom meeting, and he did say that he was willing to work with us on putting in some sort of a buffer, whether it be trees or fencing. As Victor mentioned, we want some sense of privacy. These units are actually more dense than they were before. They did increase the size of the ones, although they did move Unit 5 away. They increased Units 3 and 4 in size. So the distance really isn't any lesser than it was before. The property as a whole has remained with the same density as before because the units just increased in size. But with that in mind, he may be in compliance with the setback in most of the areas, but we definitely need some privacy that is going to be all year round, not, some trees that the leaves are going to fall off in the winter. We need to have the assurance that we're going to have that buffer between the two properties, between the upper part of the properties and the lower parts of the properties. 56 Rockland Place has the lowest elevation, so the roof lines are going to be right in our faces. So we definitely need that. I also want to address, I know the path is not a part of this project, but Laura last night in the Zoom call did not say she was talking about moving it to the north side. She was talking about moving the path to the west side. There are it's all more rock cliff there, and it's actually more dangerous to have it on that side. So I would respectfully ask that it be codified to remain in place the way it has been for well over 100 years. And that's a future fight, but it's still something that's worth discussing. And I think that's pretty much it. We know this is going to be an improvement. We still think that there are some things that can be worked on to please everybody in the community. I am very much appreciative that there will not be any dumpsters on site. I heard that, and I thank you for that. But I do want it on record that there should be some required buffering of plants, fences to protect the privacy of the neighbors. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Next is Julia Rappaport.
Hi. Hold on, let me lower my hand. Hi, Julia Rappaport, 55 White Pine Road. By all intents and purposes, we are abutters. I think there is like a foot that separates us. And I, again, also want to thank really everybody, the developers for all the work that went into these revisions, the council. You have all just been so thoughtful and so generous with your time, and it's really appreciated. We think that these plans go in a promising direction. My neighbor Django commented about the density in this neighborhood. That is still a concern. This is a large density ask, both environmentally in terms of pollution, removal of trees, and also just family density. Our family echoes the concerns about the path, and I'm so heartened to hear that there's discussions both from the developer and the Lupien family and the city. I know that a lot of several members of this committee have been looking into ways to preserve that, and it's much appreciated. I wanted to raise 2 additional points along with the concern about the path. So in the new plans, Unit 5, Terry, when you were talking, you really stressed the percentage of the proposal that is in violation of the setbacks. And, thank you for zooming in there. For the people who live there, it's not a small percentage, right? This is people who have lived in these homes for years, who have put all of their resources, who've raised their families here. So I would just strongly encourage the committee to not allow any violation of the rear setback. There are thriving communities back there, and it may look like a small percentage to the developers, but for the people who call these places home, it's a big deal. On the original plans, there was a unit that the developer communicated openness to remove. In the prior plans, it was, I believe, Unit 5. Now that unit has just been replaced with Unit 4. So while we appreciate the reduction in total units, we are very unsatisfied with simply removing a unit that was the developer indicated he would be happy to remove, i.e. place no unit there, and placed Unit 4 there. So as my neighbor Vic said, we are quite unhappy, or he didn't say that. I am saying that I am quite unhappy. Our family is unhappy with that placement. As Vic said, we would strongly encourage the committee to explore moving that Unit 4 back toward Thurston Road, or simply removing it, as the developer has said, indicated in the past that he would be open to doing. That was the message that we came away from the May 12th hearing with, and we would like to do that. You're welcome. Thank you all.
Thank you. Oh, boy, that's cool. It just fades her out. Technology. Next, I see I'm going to take 2 more hands up on Zoom, which I raised, Laura Oakes, and then will be Michelle Hubbard. And then I'll come back to more people who are in the chamber who'd like to speak.
Hi, this is Laura Oakes. Can you hear me?
Yes. What's your address, please, Laura?
I live in Rhode Island, but I'm the former owner of 103 Thurston Road. My name is Laura Lupien Oakes. Lee Fisher had mentioned that I spoke last night at the meeting regarding the path. And I know that the path is not part of this project, but it has been brought up a lot since this project started. The path is not going away. The path is and always has been private property that my family and the previous owner of 66, the Piccarello family, allowed the, the residents up in up on Elliott Hill to utilize, and it's never been a problem. My father was very concerned about safety, and he put up a fence at the property line between 0 and 66 to allow for that. Geraldine had mentioned about moving the path. I mentioned that my father had worked with the city many years ago, considering moving the path to the western side of the property. And I don't know why that never went through, but we found plans in his paperwork that the path was going to be moved. And there's actually a gate in the playground where the path was going to come out. There was property between the 66 property and the playground that at one point was taken by the city in the 50s, and it was given back in the 80s. And my father gave half of it to the city to build a picnic area. So, my family has worked with the city, with the community. We were lucky enough to run our family business out of there for many, many years, which we're very grateful for. My father has given to the city, and my great-grandfather bought the property in the late 1800s. And so we've been there forever. We're very, very sad to see it go. This is not something that we want to do lightly, but we want the community to have a better look than it does now. And I'll say this with air quotes, the neighbors have tolerated my family there, but it's a new generation and it's time to move forward. The family is in complete agreement with the developer. We have worked very closely with the realtors, the attorneys, to make sure that it is done respectfully and that, of course, the path is maintained. If the path moves, it could move, but it is and the property 66 is still our property. It has not been sold. We own it, and we will, we are going to be very respectful to the neighborhood to maintain that path. And if it does need to move, it will be moved because of safety reasons. It will not be moved because, we don't want it to be there.
Thank you very much, Ms. Oakes.
Yep, you're very welcome.
Michelle Hubbard, and then I'll come back to people who are in the chamber who would like to speak. Michelle, you're next.
Okay, yes. Thank you so much, Laura. Like I said last night at the meeting, I'm so thankful to you, to the history of your family. I'm thankful to Terry and the developer for trying, really honoring what the neighborhood, the history and the community that's here, which is very special.
Can you just give us your address?
Thank you. 116 Roundwood. So I don't abut the property, but I'm on the path every day. My husband and I with our dog Sadie and our kids, and they've gone down. I just want to speak in terms of the community and the playground. They've gone down to the playground all their lives. My daughter continues to climb trees there and swing on the monkey bars. And I don't know if this is a development question or a city question, but someone last night brought up again about the safety of, the many, many children that are there. There's a daycare, there's a preschool. I think there's also after school programs. And so with the load of 29 cars and their guests that are in this area, I'm hoping either there can be, how is the traffic going to be managed? Is there going to be a speed bump placed? And then again, with the trash that's being brought out, where are the garbage trucks picking up that trash? So just sort of a little more understanding about what the logistics are about all these families moving in and how it impacts around Thurston Road and that area that's used by so many. Thank you again, everyone, for this incredibly thoughtful process.
Thank you, Ms. Hubbard. Let's go back to people who are sitting on the uncomfortable benches in the chamber. If you would like to speak, just come right on up. And if more of you want to just line up behind him and call on you next. Yes, sir, go ahead.
Hi, I'm Jamie Chang at 87 Thurston Road. We're the neighbors on the eastern side. So we appreciate the moving back the setbacks, and we appreciate the fewer units that are on our side. When the snow was heavy last year, the Thurston Road was down to 1 lane. So we have some concerns about snow removal from the 2 large driveways and the 15 parking spaces. And also we have concerns about privacy in winter. When the leaves are gone, we can see all the way to the playground. And so we're hoping that there'll be some tall privacy hedges that are put up, especially near units 12 and 13 that are closest to us. Otherwise, it'll be too clear. And I didn't think about the transformers before. There was mention of transformers on the southeastern side, which is our side. But on the map, it was pointing to the southwestern side. But either side, I guess, would be bad because that side would be the path. And then we don't like to, I don't know what the transformers really are, but if it's a lot of electrical equipment, that would seem not so nice. So that's about it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Tang. Anyone else from the chamber? Neighbors, come up, sir.
Hi. I'm Matthew Katzman at 108 Thurston Road. I want to start by saying that we are very appreciative of the progress made on the proposal, and we're grateful that many of the neighborhood's concerns appear to have been heard and taken seriously. At this point, we're generally supportive of the revised development and appreciate the meaningful updates. We just wanted to make sure one nuance did not go unnoticed, and that's the remaining request for lot area per unit relief that appears to be tied directly to the removal of the third inclusionary unit. As we understand it, the site's baseline density under the 4,000 square foot per unit requirement is lower than the 14 units now proposed. And previously, the added density was connected to an inclusionary housing bonus. The project has replaced that inclusionary unit with a waiver request instead. And we're not raising this to oppose the project, but wanted to ensure that that trade-off between added density and inclusionary housing remained visible in the discussion. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other members of the public want to speak? We can get some replies from the developer. Who is that? Emily Williams.
Yes. Hello, I'm Emily Williams, 12 Cottage Street. And I can't remember who else brought up that this property location next to the playground where there's not only the children's playground, the elementary school bus stops, and the after-school programs. And while I understand our need for housing, we've done the easy properties already. This one, I really think the proximity of the number of young children and the density may not be a good match. And the street is very narrow there, and the turn from Thurston to, I guess it's Petty, and then on to Petty again, is so narrow. And what can be done to mitigate the traffic in consideration of all the young children there? So that's my thought.
Thank you very much. The next hand I see up on Zoom is identified without a photo, but with the initials JF. JF, if you can unmute yourself and identify yourself, and you're next to speak. And if not, we'll move on, but I'll try and come back to you, and we'll see if this can work to get you unmuted, to get you to speak. But we're not going to hang on that right this second. Let's take it into the committee, unless anyone else in the audience want to speak? No. Mr. Morse, do you want to answer any of the questions or concerns or comments you heard before we hear from the committee? or not? I assumed you were taking some notes on some of those things that you may want to mention right now, but if not, we'll take it into committee and I'll still give you a chance if you have other later. Okay. Committee members. I know, don't be shy. I know you have thoughts on this. Pressure? Councilor Lucas, I can always count on you.
Pressure? There's no pressure over here.
The silence.
Okay. There's a lot here, and I'm gonna go in many different directions because I got a lot of questions. But I'm gonna start with something that I read in the planning memo. It said that the site is within a half mile of public transit, mainly the Elliott train station. Half mile. But when I went to Google Maps, I found out that it was greater than a half mile, actually 0.6 miles. So, Mr. Temple, my question is directed towards you. How does the state define distance to transit? Is it as the crow flies, or is there another method on how they define distance to transit?
Yeah, I would have to look into that and get back to you. I know we traditionally use a GIS mapping tool to measure the distance from the lot line to the transit station. So I'm confident that it was measured appropriately and it's a half mile, but we can certainly double check that for you.
Okay, but it's not walking distance because the walking distance is technically greater.
No, it is not walking distance. It's a direct geographical line.
Okay, well, I'll talk to the state legislature about that.
Or if planning, anyone wants to pipe in during this, if Ms. Berman or Kemet have an answer to that, we'd love to hear from you too. Go ahead, Mr. Councilor Lucas.
Okay, the other thing was from the young gentleman who had just spoken. He raised something, and I caught this looking at the planning memos, and that is the lot area per unit previously was greater than 4,000 square feet, but now it's under 4,000 square feet, even though we took away 2 units. I don't know how that's possible. If anything, lot area per unit should increase, not decrease. So I must be missing something on that. The other thing in the planning memo is that the planning memo says at the end of it, the petition is complete. However, planning is asking for additional information. And one thing that they asked for was snow removal, turn radius study, trash location, which was all addressed by the petitioner. But I believe in the planning memo, it also asked for an FAR comparison. Even though FAR does not apply to single family attached, it's still a helpful tool. Respectfully to planning, I would never say the petition is complete when the city is still requiring or still would like to see more information. Let's see. I think just a couple of positive things, Mr. Morris, okay? If you don't mind. I think the 16-foot driveways are good because it forces cars to slow down when entering and exiting the site. That is a good thing. But one thing that I asked at the last public hearing was, are you going to install any sort of, and I mean small, speed bumps or speed humps or speed tables at the edge of the driveway on your property so that when cars exit the site, they really have to slow down and can't speed on Thurston Road?
We had not taken that. Quite frankly, I did not recall that you had made that suggestion. I apologize for that.
Terry, if I can just add one thing to that. We did provide an updated landscape plan that was added at the end of the petition, which did include raised cobblestone pavers at the end of each driveway. Those raised cobblestone pavers would, in essence, act as a both beautification tactic as well as provide a speed table at the end of each of these driveway spaces.
Thank you. I appreciate it. And I'm sure the neighbors and those who visit the park around the corner will appreciate that as well.
Council Lucas, if I could respond to your FAR question. As you know, FAR is not applicable in this situation. It only applies to single and two-family homes. We did provide that information to Ms. Berman earlier today. The previous FAR was 0.56. The current FAR is 0.52. It's been reduced down to 0.52. The comparison to be made is with 4 by right 10,000 square foot lots, at which the FAR would be 0.48.
So you're at 0.52 and the by right is 0.48.
The previously plan was 0.56.
Yeah, I get it. You went down
We did
0.04.
right, we went down,
You're at 0.52 right now.
right,
The by right is 0.48.
right.
Okay. Is that 0.48? That's the new lot, correct?
12.48 is based on the creation of a by right 4-lot subdivision containing approximately 10 to 11,000 square feet.
That's the new lots.
Those would
not
be new lots.
New
that's
lots.
correct.
Good. So you don't get the bonus.
So I'm sorry.
You
was it-
wouldn't get a bonus, correct?
that would-
You wouldn't get the FAR 0.02 bonus with the new lot, correct?
The bonus with the new lots, yes, because we would have sufficient area, yes, we would be taking the bonus.
You would or would not?
If we would take the bonus, that would add 0.2. That would make it
Ne-
0.50.
Neither the proposed project that's currently in front of you as well as the proposed 4-lot subdivision would be eligible for the bonus.
Thank you. Let's see. I think we heard from one of the direct abutters is additional perimeter screening. Just what are the plans for additional screening, landscaping that's proposed, or can you do anything more?
Trevor, can you bring up the landscape plan? We did. The speaker, Geraldine, was present at the Zoom meeting last night. I did make that commitment publicly during the Zoom meeting to her that the client, the petitioner, would work with her to provide.
Can you zoom in, please?
Actually, Trevor, do you have the assessor's map that shows the larger area beyond our site?
I can
There was
share
a
that.
handout- There was a handout that Lee had passed out. Yes, can you zoom in on that? Zoom in closer. Okay, there, yeah. So actually back it up so that you show more of the surrounding lots.
What are we looking for, Mr. Morris?
So I think Geraldine, I believe, was at 60, 65. And had made the comment that those lots are actually on the down, are lower than this lot, and was concerned about sight lines. So I said all of the clients that I've worked with in special permit situations, especially that have dealt one-on-one with individual abutters who may have specific concerns related to their properties. I made that commitment to her last night, and I stand by it. Go back to the site plan, landscape plan, if you would. Ever?
I definitely want the questions to be answered, but I don't want to be engaged in back and forths. So let's try and
Okay, that's fine.
keep concise and to specifics. And I was going to give you a chance to go through a list of them rather than do the back and forth, but
I would point out that while we do have this landscape plan, one of the reliefs that it said what we needed relief from was the screening of parking spaces located within setbacks. Every one of those parking spaces has specifically called out landscape screening on it. So that is a particular form of relief that we do not need.
Okay. You don't want it back and forth.
I don't. So, but you have the floor. He was answering a question of yours.
Without going back and forth,
Questions or comments?
yeah.
and do
Granted,
them.
I have not looked at the landscape plan yet, so perhaps it's in the landscape plan, the type of tree. And then my last question was, again, don't eat this now. What were the average size of the units before? and what are they now? That would be helpful. And then the question that I just want to reiterate the question that I stated before: how come the lot area per unit went down, even though the number of units went down? If anything, it should be the opposite. I don't understand that, but thank you.
Mr.
All
O'Leary,
set, Chair. Oh,
can you address that question from Councilor Lucas? It's sort of a double question, actually. I would say lot size and unit size. Can you answer those? I did see a chart today with the unit sizes, and I did see that those sizes were listed on the plans that were submitted. But Mr. O'Leary, can you give a quick answer to that question, to those two questions about how did the lot area per unit change in the way that Councilor Lucas mentioned, and what are the sizes of the units?
Sure. So when we were at the 16 units, we were taking a provision in the zoning bylaw for an affordable housing bonus. So with that, we were able to, by providing 3-bedroom units, use a 3-to-1 bonus, which essentially put our lot area per unit calculation at 12 units. With the reduction of the 2 units, we also had a reduction in 1 affordable unit, which brings our calculation to 14 units rather than the 12 that we had originally. In regards to the size of these units, from an FAR standpoint, the 16 units prior to this were an average of around 1,750 square feet. They ranged from 1,729 to 1,843. And the updated size of these units from an FAR standpoint would be an average of about 1,850 square feet, and they range from 1,741 to 1,980.
So I still don't understand the math behind lot area per square unit. When it was 16 units, you were above 4,000 square feet. Now you're at, what is it, 14?
Yeah, because the bonus units above the 12 were taken after the lot area per unit, because they were an affordable housing bonus. Whereas now we're no longer taking that affordable housing bonus. So the 14 units are the number that we have to calculate the lot area per unit with, and the 15% is taken from that 14 units rather than applying a bonus afterwards.
Okay, I'll take this offline with planning if you don't mind.
I think Ms. Berman
oh.
is eager to step in and give us a little
Please.
clarification right now. We don't need to take it offline. I think we'll
Oh,
all
okay.
benefit from
Yeah,
that. Ms. Berman,
all right.
go.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This may make it slightly easier or not to understand. It's a little bit complicated with the inclusionary bonus incentive, but as part of the incentive, the additional units that are granted can't exceed 25% of the total number of units that are allowed by right. So in this particular case, 12 units would be allowed on this site, given the lot area. With the affordable bonus that they got, which was 1 affordable unit plus 3 market rate, that was a total of 4. And so it was they would be allowed to have 3 units that were of the same, but because they had 4, that reduced their, they didn't meet lot area per unit. It's a little tricky, but that's ultimately the reason why the relief for lot area per unit has remained consistent, both with the 16 units as well as with the 14 now proposed.
You, Ms. Berman, it's a good thing you understand the ordinance better than me. Almost that, Chair.
So she gets paid the big bucks compared to us. I'm going to keep this going, but I want to clear up a couple of questions I have about the Zoom. The former JF person who had a hand raised now looks like it's Justin Fishman. Justin, are you now able to unmute yourself, and do you still want to speak?
Thank you very much.
Yay!
Hi. I made it. This is Justin Fishman of 47 White Pine Road and the former JF. And, I want to say that there's definitely good progress here. And as Vic said, it looks like they eliminated these units, but moved other ones closer. And, they've certainly pushed it up to the edge of the setback, which is well within their rights to do. but I think a couple more feet away from, the concerned neighbors who basically have what's, almost a nature preserve. There's not a lot of site work going on at this lot these days. It's sort of a nature preserve. So I bet a few more feet away from the sides and backs would make everyone that much happier who abuts it, and would be, result in a few months being shaved off the process, if I had to guess. So if I, just looking at what everyone's asking for, a few more feet here and there, probably wouldn't change the developer's economics, but probably would make all the folks on White Pine and Rockland a lot happier, and on the sides and back. And then the last thing I wanted to say was, again, to the path, it's there's talk of a 1 foot easement, which, a foot isn't really that big. And then on the landscaping plan, it, certainly doesn't seem to be reflected anywhere. And there's going to be trees planted right along it, which may or may not grow into that easement area. So it's, I kind of want it, I would like for the enhancement of the path to be really contemplated in the landscape design. And again, the drainage, as I said last time, if there, when you design drainage for a building, you grade everything away from the building because you don't want water in your basement. Very reasonable, right? Except for the path right there. If that's going to push all this impervious space, like asphalt is going to push all the water on the path. The path's going to become a muddy swamp. As someone said, it kind of was years ago, the water pools in the back left of the site. And once there's unit 4 there, that water's going to, be ejected by sump pumps and grading. It's going to be sent right towards the path. So I'd like to see on the landscape plan a sort of dry basin, just a simple grate that directs the water down towards Thurston, where it would go otherwise. That would, I think, ensure that the neighborhood remains connected top to bottom for years to come. And lastly, if I don't know that the city has this power to specify it, but it would be great if we could get the wheels in motion, as Mr. Lucas and Matt and 108 Thurston Road pointed out. Cars are going to be coming in and out of here, and it's sort of a blind turn from Thurston onto Petty, where lots of kids are playing. A stop sign in both directions is just something that seems like a no-brainer.
Mr. Fishman, you may not be able to see your screen, which
I can. Thank you.
Okay, sorry. I think we have heard some of those comments, but thanks for reiterating them. One more quick thing I need to clean up is previously, Kat Kemet, you had your hand raised, and I wanted to be sure that you were heard if you wanted to step in and clarify something. And on the other hand, you perhaps took it down because it got answered by somebody else, but I want to be sure to include you. If you want, and Pam, right, I see your hand up. We're still right now in committee, and I will come to you soon. I see Mr. Morris has arisen to answer some other questions.
Madam Chair, I have to respond to the previous speaker who made a comment about the driveway. The previous site plan had the driveway right against the lot line. This site plan you see here reflects a positive response to that concern. And now the driveway that you see here, the so-called west driveway, is even further removed from the lot line and the pathway than the existing driveway. So I suggest any suggestion that there's a drainage issue caused by this driveway, which has been engineered professionally, is unfounded.
His point too about a drainage basin is surely something that your civil engineer has looked at in terms of overall grading and drainage, but it was an interesting point, and you can bring it back to Mr. Spruhan or Charlton or whoever did that. Other comments from committee members, questions? Yes, Ms. Irish, Councillor Irish.
Thank you, Chair. Also, thank you to the the petitioner and all the residents who have been so engaged, and this has been a really thoughtful and civil process, and I appreciate that, and some really good dialogue. I think where we are, this is much improved. These plans are much improved given, and the petitioner was responsive to many of our concerns and the neighbors' concerns. Still a couple of questions. Several of which Councilor Lucas already asked, so I will go through there. So thank you. I'll shorten my list. Yeah, I know you jumped the gun there. Okay, so one of my questions, which you asked, and I don't think, well, it was the getting back to the square footage of the units. Today and in past meetings, Mr. Morris, you've said they've all under 2,000. I guess I'm still a little confused how that's calculated. That does not include the livable space in the basement or the attic. I think that's, from what I can tell from the plans, and including those is much over 2,000. And I just want to understand, I know there's what you have to submit, but sort of what is the marketable square footage? I just want to be sure that we know what we're getting. That's all. Again, I just want to be clear on sort of the size and the square footage of each of the units. When I looked through them, I noticed that several of them have 5 bathrooms. And that just was kind of raised my concern around, as I'm learning about the INI, and if that's reflected in that. Some have 3, some have 4, but a handful, maybe half of them have 5 bathrooms. So I just wanted to get a sense of the size of the units, I guess.
Certainly. In response to the information requested by the planning, there was a chart prepared, and I will turn the microphone over to Trevor shortly. But the chart that was prepared calculated the area according to what was counted in FAR, which doesn't include basement and doesn't include attic, but it does include the garage. Trevor will explain in response that the information now recalculated and actual living space, the units are closer to 2,500 square feet on average, whereas before they were closer to 1,900 square feet by just counting the FAR.
Okay.
It's important to point out that people sort of are dismissive of a subdivision here, but the subdivision is likely to produce, given the FAR requirements or allowances, if you include space that can be developed in a by right, very large 4,000 square foot house could be expanded into 6,000. It was our approach that to the committee for a special permit that we believe that the city council as a whole is looking for units that aren't being built by right at such dimensions as we're seeing built across the city. That's why this project was conceived initially having less than 2,000 square feet if you're counting by the FAR space. And even if you're counting the basement and garage as potential, 2,500 square feet is still a modest size for single family houses, attached houses in this city. I will turn it over to Trevor, who can probably elaborate more than I can as to how he made those calculations. Thank you.
Sure. Yeah. So as Terry said, just to reiterate, the FAR calculation is something that we use as a standard calculation to compare projects in the city. When looking at this as a by right project, each of the lots would have an FAR allowance of just under 6,000 square feet. I think it's 5,990 if we look at dividing this between the 49,000 square feet of the total lots. When looking at this, the 2,500 square feet that we're looking at is the total habitable area that's spread over 4 stories. Realistically, these homes are reasonable size homes. When we look at the size of the footprints of these, we're averaging around 8 to 850 square feet of footprint space for each of these units. The living spaces on these are on the smaller side. Which in that case, by the nature of these being smaller units, are going to be more affordable in nature to the counterparts of what a by right development would be able to bring here. Each of these units are provided with a single car garage, which you can see just in dimensional standpoint when we look at this site plan is roughly 12 to 12 and a half feet wide, which takes up more than half of the usable living space on the first floor in these units. When we look at the second floor, it's a modest sized second floor. The number of bathrooms that are allotted in these units are typical of a standard colonial home, with a powder room on the first floor, 2 bathrooms provided on the second floor, 1 for a primary suite and 1 for 2 additional bedrooms. There will be provisions for both a bathroom in the attic and in the basement for future use for these residents. At this time, it hasn't been determined if they will all be fully built out, but we want to make sure that we provide the provisions and show the locations of where potentially these could be placed.
Oh, thank you very much. Again, 2,500 is still a reasonable size. I agree. I just wanted to be sure, get a better sense of the actual livable, habitable space, so everyone was aware. So that's okay. One question. What else? Question around the drainage is still a bit of a concern, I think, in that sort of the left top corner there, given the history. I know we've talked about it a little bit, but knowing that there's always, from what we've heard from neighbors, water there and the runoff and some the potential flooding, I just want to be aware that this is around ledge. And as we all know, this area is just full of ledge, and how water tracks and moves through ledge is very different than just absent of ledge. So I didn't know if there's any way to track that, or what do we know, or if that's part of the engineering around being able to assess the water that might be below there or the runoff from the ledge. Just didn't know if there's any additional engineering work, just to be sure. Again, I want to make sure this is the best project for the neighborhood, and I'd hate to see it be affected by some unknown.
Sure. So,
yeah.
I mean, these projects, they have to go through a rigorous review with the engineering department. As part of that, there was requirements for test pits to be dug through the site. A number of test pits were dug, and we had soil evaluators come out and evaluate the level of the groundwater table in those locations. As we go through the project and as it's inspected by ISD during foundations, that is continuously monitored. All of these buildings, the water runoff from these buildings has to be managed, and that's a requirement by the City of Newton Engineering. And so stormwater retention systems will be provided to manage that water runoff from these buildings, which is above and beyond what is currently on the site today. From a grading standpoint, the grading on this will have a gradual grade down towards Thurston Road, keeping the majority of water runoff flowing towards Thurston in any of the impervious surfaces.
Thank you. Thank you for the explanation. Is there any way, do we know, I guess I might have missed that. Is that engineering plan has been submitted, and I missed that in the packet?
Yeah, so they have, it's a grading and zoning plan that has to be submitted as part of the special permit process. But as part of that, it goes to the City of Engineering's review process, where they do a preliminary site analysis and review of the overall site conditions. But that final engineering review is required for any building permit.
Okay. And Leslie, was there a soil test? I think that was raised in one of the prior meetings. Was there any results from soil testing in that area?
They did do an environmental testing, and to my knowledge, it came back clean. And
Trevor,
oops, we lost
your
you.
Microphone got
we lost
there for a sec. Try again.
Can you hear me now?
Nope. Yeah, there we go.
Okay, sorry about that.
You're back.
I believe that there was some environmental testing done. I would have to confer with the client on or the owner on this site. That all that information is information that has to be provided as part of that engineering review and will be reviewed both by the engineering department and ISD.
And just one more related to this, I think there's a mention in the planning department's memo about the possibility of a need or consideration of retaining wall. Is that something that was looked at and examined at any point?
So I think the only retaining wall that we're looking at, and realistically, it's not a retaining wall by the typical nature that we would see, but in the back, or I guess the northwest corner of this site, the slope is above a 1-to-1 slope. So when we look at the requirements in the zoning bylaws, anything that's more than a 45-degree angle or a 1-to-1 slope is, by the definition of it, is considered as a retaining wall.
Oh, okay. I have a few more, but I'll let someone else go over their questions.
Councillor Irish, I think while you have the floor and you are also the ward councillor from this ward, I'd be happy for you to finish all your questions. And I would like to do a follow-up one that you touched on about ledge. So when you're done, I'll come back to that for Trevor's consideration or to pass it on to your engineer. Go ahead, please.
There was mention about the transformers, and that is, as we know, has come up recently, and a lot of discussion about the location of transformers. And you mentioned in the southwest corner, I think that was where it was going to be towards the path, was perhaps the intention for ease. Is that within the setbacks? Would that be within the? Is there room?
Yeah, so that location we actually have two locations that we have highlighted here for this. The original location that we proposed and what would be our preferred location would actually be adjacent to this visitor parking space within the rear, which would be consistent with the rear setback that we're currently proposing. The benefit of this space here is it would require less overall space for it due to it not being as close to the street. That being said, when we look at the existing electrical infrastructure that is currently on Thurston Road and where we anticipate that Eversource is going to request location based on previous projects that we've worked on and location of existing utility poles, this front location here is most likely where that work order is going to be pushed towards.
Okay, maybe it'd be open to a conversation. Who knows?
Yeah, it's something where with each of these projects, as we work through with Eversource and that process of a work order with them can take upwards of 8 months to close to a year, right? A lot of these projects, we don't get final determination of where the electrical infrastructure is going to be finalized and done until well into construction. And we're happy to, work with them and work with, the council and come up with what is the best location for this transformer. But understand the utility companies don't give much flexibility on this. So we can ask for it.
I did want to follow up on something I think the last speaker said from the last resident about possibility of shaving off a few feet here and there, which might make everyone a bit happier. I think that is, from what I've heard, the relief for the setback a little bit closer than they intended in the back here and there. If that would be something to consider, I think that would be great if that the petition would be open to maybe thinking more about that. Moving things if possible. I thought there was a mention, a couple of the residents mentioned moving the one of the buildings away from the back, one or two of those. I don't know if that's a possibility, but it was an interesting idea. And lastly, I just want to make one correction from the planning memo, which I noted. I think Ms. Berman noted that the public hearing was open on April 14th. That meeting did not take place. So the first public hearing was May 12th. So I just want to be sure this is the second one. And I think that's it for now. Thank you.
Thank you. Just to follow up on some of your things, I think any of us who are on public facilities will acknowledge that the utility companies, and in particular Eversource, I hope they're not listening to this recording, are not very cooperative to negotiate with around where I see some experienced people chuckling at the truth of what I'm saying here. We have seen transformers be located within setbacks right close to the street because that's where they want them. They want them closest where they can access, generally on the main street. So I'm very I understand when Mr. O'Leary and Mr. Morris say we'll try and locate the transformers in locations we think are more desirable, but in my experience too, that's not necessarily what Eversource will do. And I appreciate Mr. O'Leary saying he's willing to be collaborative, because if only the same could be said for Eversource, we would have some different results. The other question she had tried to get at was, as I understand it, the difference between water from groundwater or soil and ledge, water running through ledge. Is that something that it can be documented somehow, somewhere? What is the source of the water? And this, on this particular site, is a question that neighbors have had around why it was so wet, say, under the huge pile of mulch. Was the mulch put there to absorb and sponge up water that was coming through the ledge? Because I do not believe that that was water coming from groundwater pooling there. So just, is there a way of discerning the effect of water running through ledge, Mr. O'Leary, that you know of, or can you ask your civil engineer that question?
Yeah, I mean, I would have to confer with the civil engineer. That being said, water doesn't, typically the pooling from that is from either rainwater or surface water that is not able to seep into the soil because of the density of the ledge of the rock. And it's got to seep outside of it. So adding these units that are going to have their roof areas captured by stormwater systems that have been engineered and have been designed to hold, up to a one inch storm is going to, have a positive impact on the overall site.
Yeah, I guess the question is around the effect of water running through ledge, which is all in this area, but I don't want to belabor it either. Let's move on. Any other questions from committee members? And if not, I'm going to go to Pam Wright, and then I can come back to the committee too, because Pam has been waiting very patiently. Pam.
Thank you. Councilor Irish pretty much asked my questions about really what I was asking is the FAR size average is under 2,000, but the realtor advertised square footage is going to be closer, I think you said 2,800 square feet. You did say though that the basements are going to be unfinished. Is that true?
No, as of right now, we haven't finalized. Each unit is going to depend on the final buyer on them. But at this point, we do have plans and shown finished space.
Yeah, I saw the finished space, but maybe I misheard you. Okay, that's it. Thank you.
Thanks. Thanks for hanging in there. Other questions from city councilors? Councilor Irish. It's a good place to end with the Ward 5 councilor.
Just a couple more things that I think are really important for this site, which don't want to lose sight of how busy it is in that corner. And I kind of wish we could always look at a site sort of pulled back to see what else is around it when we look at some of these, the actual neighborhood. And as others have mentioned, it's a really busy area, and when it goes into the council order about mitigation, traffic mitigation, or something we can do for this area, just to ensure that it's safe. There are so many, kids in the area due to all the things that go on in the playground and the aftercare and the ball games and the bus stop. And hopefully we bring you more children in with these. So just want to be sure. I don't know what we can outline. I don't know what is allowable, but I did not want to lose sight of some mitigation for the safety in this neighborhood. Also, I'm just going to make a plea about the design. If I know it's out of our purview, probably what it looks like, but I just make a request that it does, the design complements the existing neighborhood, what's there, and preferably something new and not white and with finished windows. That's me channeling Councilor Roach. So just as a design request, I know we can't really say it, but would love for the design to match what's in the neighborhood. And I think,
If I can respond to that.
yes.
Trevor, your microphone
yeah,
again is
Again, sorry, how about now?
Yep, it's good.
All right. So as part of the plan for this, we are looking to have some diversity in both the look and the color of these units. One thing I do want to note, with this rendering, is that the final colors, due to just the nature of our change, we weren't able to get it into this set. However, we are looking at earth tone colors, which you can see down here in the bottom right corner of the set, to provide some diversity through this, and which will be consistent with the historic nature of the neighborhood. We are looking at also a variety of different siding materials, both with either shingles and planks, to again provide not a consistent black and white look that I know we all are tired of.
Much appreciated.
Trevor, would you like to address the question that was channeled through Councilor Irish from some neighbors about whether your team has already done all the considering of tweaking, moving, and shrinking, or whether they would consider continuing to do more of that? Would you at least address that?
So I mean, I would have to confer with my client on this. I know with the size of these units, again, these are small units that we're looking at here. I think one thing I can show here, just as a comparison, is the outlines of the existing buildings where we were in the previous iteration of this versus the proposed plan. I know that it can be a little confusing because the numbers of the units changed a little bit from the 16 units to the 14 units. But I do want to note that both the unit we had in the current location of Unit 10, the unit we had in the current location of Unit 12, and the unit we had in the current location of Unit 4 have all been pulled back from those setback lines and are providing more open space in each of those areas.
Thank you. I think it was just worth addressing that because it came up from some members of the public and the ward councilor tonight. Mr. Morris. Oh, can we go to Mr. Golden? Councilor Golden? I would like to. Yes, Councilor Golden.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just quickly, I just want to, it's more a comment than a question, or the development team has, I want to commend them for the responsiveness that we've seen since the last iteration of the project. It's clear there's been some meaningful substantive modifications made that are directly responsive to the points raised by the community. I mean, we haven't achieved nirvana here, but there have been significant improvements, and I appreciate that. I appreciate the fact that the issues are raised by the neighbors and that the developer responded in many of those instances. The one thing I really regret here is the loss of the affordable unit. IDP, inclusionary development, affordable income restricted units usually manifest themselves in rentals. So when we have an opportunity to score a win on a purchase opportunity, that's really important to me. And we're getting two, and that's important, but I regret the loss of the third. But I understand that the development team was balancing the concerns raised by the neighborhood as it relates to density and other issues associated with the number of units, and that the trade-off yielded the loss of this unit, and that's unfortunate. But I do appreciate what's occurred here with the neighbors and the development team. Thank you.
Ditto everything you said. Counselor Leary.
Thank you, Madam Chair. It was brought up by some residents regarding street improvements, traffic concerns with the extra units coming in. And I didn't know, I hadn't heard any really specific and was wondering if there was any thoughts with planning and with DPW about ways to make sure that the street is safe, that there's areas where children may be crossing, if they've identified any areas of the streets for improvement as part of this project. And also, I just want to comment that this has been a really wonderful experience and great communication between all parties to get to where we are this evening. And I really appreciate Councillor Irish too, really organizing and running the charge on this. So thank you for that. So just in case I missed that, or is that not something that's had any decision on regarding the traffic?
Thank you, Councillor. Senator Berman for planning. We did receive a revised memo from the engineering department for infiltration and inflow mitigation for the site for the proposed number of bedrooms that are included with this revised development. Typically, there are funds that can be used from that mitigation that can be allocated for adjacent improvements around the site. I'd be happy to look into that further with engineering and with DPW to see if they have any recommendations for that area.
Thank you. Any other input from the committee? We're going back to you, Councillor Irish. Because I think it's time, we've had our discussion, I think it's time for a motion. And that would be from you, which I warned you about this afternoon.
I know.
So it's not a surprise. And if you're not able or willing, somebody else can do it too.
No, I am willing and able to make a motion. We've seen so many improvements, and I think we're very close, but there just seems to be a handful of little things out there that I would love to get just quickly wrapped up, and I don't feel like we have the information. We brought up a lot of different things, whether it's from water or traffic or moving. There just seems to be, from my impression, we're very, very close, but I would just love to see the turning radius plan. I know that was mentioned, but there are some outstanding things that, as myself, I didn't get to see anything that was submitted late today. And for that reason, I would just rather, I think we haven't reached nirvana, but I think we're getting very close. And I just feel that I'm more confident in a motion. I'd like to make a motion to hold.
Would it be helpful for you to list the things that you don't know about yet, that haven't been answered, that you wish could get cleaned up? Sometimes there are some very small things that can be cleaned up between now and a vote. And we also have to look at the conditions that have been presented, and we sometimes put some of those in conditions. And sometimes we go on second call, or we hold and continue the whole thing. I mean, that is certainly one option, but I think it would be helpful, at least to me as chair and a member of the committee, to hear what are the things you think have not been addressed, so we can be sure that they are addressed.
Go back to my list. I think there was something around the much of it around the water and getting a better sense of the water flow and the existing conditions around the water that might be there from the runoff from the ledge. There were maybe these things, conversation, maybe it comes later around the transformers. Is that something that comes later? I don't know. Again, I didn't know if there's any still considerations about small changes, moving back. moving back from the setbacks that was mentioned, the shaving around the corners. Where else on my list of others?
We did have also the list of things that were, many of them were recommended, not required by the planning department, that were addressed by the petitioner tonight and
Yeah.
during the day. And those were all answered. So, but I didn't
Yeah.
know if any of them still felt like outstanding to you. I think the moving and the setbacks question was just answered
Okay.
by Mr. O'Leary. I think the transformer thing has been answered. That is not something we can do or set here tonight or even in committee.
Mhm.
We can never do that. That is going to be, that location, we can help, we can talk. The
Mhm.
city can, the planners can, but I don't think that that's something that we should hold this project for because that's going to be, that's just my opinion.
Okay.
Happy to hear from planning and law, other opinions. I don't know if more information about runoff, water flow, or ledge is going to come to us or be available, or how that would affect our decision between now and a vote.
Yeah.
I don't know what that would be. Mr. Morris, I see that you were running up to the microphone again. Did you want to address some of her concerns?
Madam Chair, I think you've rightly pointed out that most of those concerns are something that beyond our control and or otherwise addressed. Certainly with the water issue is, as Mr. O'Leary has pointed out, is handled by engineering. It always has historically. The only thing I would comment on, I think what's on the screen now, the last exhibit that Trevor had put up on the screen showing an overlay between what was previously the location of the previous buildings and the new location shows clearly how much we've moved those buildings. And I don't think there's any room to move them any further without then sacrificing the setback on the front. We've always maintained that look at the shape of this lot, and the back of it is defined by a 20-foot ledge wall. We think that is sufficient reason. Well, and that was the challenge that we had designing this project. If we had to eliminate that last piece that crosses the rear setback line, and we made that compliant, what would then be the justification for asking for further setback? Because we would have, or the whole thing complies with 25 feet. If we had to do that, we would, but I tell you, that does not make for better site plan because it pushes two units closer to one another. That's all.
Thanks.
Thank you. I appreciate the clarification.
Ms. Kemet, thank you for raising your hand. Happy to hear from you at this point.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just two quick things to Councillor Irish's points. It would be helpful to get more specificity on what exact analysis she's looking for when it comes to stormwater. Engineering has already reviewed the project and sort of rendered their opinion. So like a little bit more clarity on how we can further direct engineering on their review. And we are still continuing to ask for the location of the transformers. The way that the zoning ordinance is written now, transformers do need to meet primary setbacks. So while I think we've had a lot of conversations in this meeting and in previous where we know that it is likely to change, we still would like it documented on the plan because they may need relief where they are. And so we can't just ignore that it is going to be a structure on the property that needs relief, possibly. So I think even if it is possible that that location may need to change, we would still like to see it documented on a site plan.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Councillor Block.
Thank you, Chair. Through you, I'd like to ask Councillor Irish if she's aware of people, members of the public who would like to testify, but because this is a vacation week for many people, that they were unable to do so. Is that something that you're able to comment on? Thank you.
Councillor Irish. we have had this conversation and communication with some people. So let's hear how she responds to that.
There have been a couple of residents I know who could not make it because it was a vacation week. We had originally planned the community meeting for July 9th, and it was changed. However, I'm pleased that between last night's community meeting and folks who are present this evening, I do feel that it's fairly representative of the folks in the neighborhood. I think it would be the majority. I don't have a full count, but I do feel as though majority of the residents have made their voice known. So
Thank you for that reassurance. I think that's pretty important to all of us. I mean, to me, it's just the comments about adjusting the footprint of these buildings and whether there's any further possibilities of adjusting that's the only thing that seems to me to be kind of really hanging. And you are the ward counselor in this case, so this is your call. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Yes, I think that corner of that building is the one issue
Mhm.
of that's not in compliance with the setbacks. And we've heard arguments on both sides of that. So you said that you were inclined to make a motion to hold. Is that still true? Because you can make that motion.
And can I amend that motion?
Well, you haven't made it yet.
Yes, okay.
So you can make a different one. You can reconsider and make whatever motion you like, or other people. I'm not seeing a whole lot of nods necessarily one way or the other, so.
No,
But I do think we should try and vote on this
yes,
tonight.
no, I agree. And
It's a third time.
yeah,
It's the third time.
it
It's
is.
been here. Isn't it? Ms. Berman, is this the third time this project has been before the Land Use Committee?
That is correct. We technically did open the public hearing in April. We just, we needed to open it because it had been advertised, but then we quickly closed it and continued.
It's only 2 full meetings.
Yes, this is the second full meeting.
Mr. Morris, it probably feels like longer to you.
No, I just did want to make that clarification. That meeting, if it was open for a couple minutes, I guess
We
that's.
did open the
yeah,
public
Yeah,
hearing.
we did, but
Yep.
this is the full council. No, and thank you, Councilor Block, for reminding that there has been good representation. I do know a couple residents who are not here, but I believe they have had the opportunity to voice their concerns through emails to the Land Use Committee. And the neighbors have not been shy about sharing their feelings and their concerns. So I do appreciate that. Given the things we've spoken about and how they've been addressed, and the petitioner's commitment for around screening and everything that's been spoken about publicly, I do think it's not perfect, but I think we're in a really good position to make something add a real amenity to the neighborhood. So with that, I make the motion to approve.
Thank you. And again, let's remember when we look at the conditions, that's an area that we can add specificity if it occurs to us. Would you also like to make a motion to close the
Public hearing, which I was beforehand. Yes, I make a motion to close the public hearing.
First, we'll just vote on that with a voice vote. All in favor of closing the public hearing, say aye. Aye. Is anyone opposed? Is anyone abstaining? One person is absent. Okay, the public hearing is closed. A motion has been made to approve. Let's look at the findings and conditions.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Hopefully everyone can see my screen. We have here the draft order. And this again is a special permit site plan approval to allow 14 single-family dwellings, to allow reduced rear setbacks, to waive minimum lot area per unit and maximum lot coverage, to allow parking in the front setback, to allow parking within 5 feet of a dwelling unit, to allow reduced maneuvering aisle width, to allow reduced driveway entrance widths, to waive perimeter screening and lighting requirements, and to allow a driveway within 10 feet of a rear lot line and parking within 20 feet of a boundary line. Here we have the findings that the site is an appropriate location for the proposed 14 single-family attached development because it is located in a mixed density residential area with access to public transportation and public space amenities. Under item 2, the proposed 14-unit development with a maximum building height of 35.3 feet as designed will not adversely affect the neighborhood because stories and height are compliant with what is allowed by right, and the project's design distributes the massing of units into 7 buildings. Under item 3, the proposed 14-unit development as designed will not create a nuisance or serious hazard to vehicles or pedestrians because the proposed parking includes dimensionally compliant stalls for each unit and distributes parking across the entire site. Under item 4, access to the sites over streets is appropriate for the types and numbers of vehicles involved. Under item 5, that literal compliance with the parking requirements for parking stall locations, dimensional requirements for driveway aisles and entrances, the perimeter landscape screening and lighting requirements for parking facilities is impracticable due to the distribution of buildings on the site and the irregular shape of the lot, which limits parking stall locations adjacent to unit locations. And finally, item 6, that literal compliance with the dimensional setback requirements for driveways and parking stalls for single-family attached dwellings is impracticable due to the size and irregular shape of the lot, coupled with the proposed number of buildings, limiting the locations available outside the setbacks to meet parking and driveway setback requirements. We have here the petition number, the petitioner owners 3 lots. Here, 14 single-family attached residential units in 7 buildings and the relief that is granted. We have here the list of conditions. Under item 1, we have the standard plan referencing condition, inclusive of the landscape plan that was provided. Under item 2, we have an A&R plan requirement for this site. As we know, it will be soon to be combined. Under item 3, we have the compliance with the MAAB requirements for Group 1 tier units for new construction. Under item 4, we have your standard operations and management plan requirement. Under item 5, we have the pest remediation condition and rodent remediation conditions. Under item 6, we have the construction management plan requirement condition. Under items 7 and 8, we have the infiltration and inflow calculation. These will be updated before it goes to full council. We want to note the exact amounts that will be required at these steps, but we do have the updated memo from engineering. And if we wanted to add a condition here that allocated a certain amount of funds for improvements in the neighborhood area, we can update this accordingly with that. Under items 9 through 16, we have our inclusionary housing provisions. We have here that 2 of the residential units will be supplied as well, and we are going to get clarity from the Community Housing Division just to confirm that as well. And that is for conditions 9 through 16. Under item 17, that the petitioner will comply with the city's tree preservation ordinance. Under item 19, that the trash and recycling disposal will be handled by a private entity as stated by the petitioner. Under item 19, that all buildings will be designed, constructed to the sustainability items that were outlined in the petitioner's proposal. Under item...
Hold on, Ms. Berman.
yep.
Can you go back?
Sure.
I think it was 18.
Mhm.
The trash and recycling disposal shall be handled by a private entity. I thought it was going to be the normal trash pickup. No, I thought there wasn't going to be.
Private.
So all the trash will be within each individual dwelling garage, but it'll be collected by a private trash truck. So there's not going to be a dumpster on site. It'll act the same way as the city trash is, but it'll be a private pickup.
Got it. Just want to be sure.
Is this not a place to add snow, or does snow come later?
Snow, I
Okay,
believe, is
thank
coming
you.
later. I apologize.
Thank you.
All right, and so I believe we left out at item 19, which is for the sustainability requirements associated with the project. Under item 20, we have our snow storage condition right here, that their locations will be provided and that the snow areas will be identified on the site plan. Under item 21, we have the standard, my apologies, This item is just that any and all police details that are associated with the project or traffic control will be secured by and paid for by the petitioner. Under item 22, this is our standard building permit condition, and we have here the number of items required to be submitted in order to get their building permit. Under item 23 through 25, we have the standard certificate of occupancy conditions. And under items 26 and 27, we have our standard landscaping conditions that to remain compliant with the proposed landscaping plan. I'm happy to go back and go over any of the other conditions or add any other conditions in that the counselors would like to consider.
I would like to go back quickly to 20 Snow, and then we have Counselor Lucas and Counselor Block. Does it need to say that it's the plowing and shoveling is to be done and removed by a private company hired by the owners or something? Like, it doesn't really say who's doing the snow removal.
It doesn't specify, this is specifying that it would be located on the site plan.
So who puts it there is what I'm wondering. What's the usual way of handling this in a small development like this? Does it get called out as privately contracted snow removal?
Hi, Chair, I can jump in on this one.
Yay, thank you, Jonah. I was hoping you would.
That's not something we would ever call out in a special permit condition. It's not the city's responsibility, and it's up to the developer to figure out snow removal.
And we don't need to say that.
This is Kat Kemet. Typically, we would see something speaking to this in the construction management plan.
Oh, okay.
So we don't need to necessarily get into it here. It would be included in that.
Thank you. Yay, I'm good. Okay, Counselor Lucas and then Block.
Thank you. Ms. Berman, I didn't see anything related to the vibration control ordinance. Why is that?
Those are additional conditions that can be added into the order. And if you would like that to be added in, we can absolutely include that in this order.
Yes, please.
No, I would also just chime in. This is going to be subject to the vibration control ordinance. If you want us to reference it, for clarity, we can do that.
Yes, please. Thank you.
Some neighbors have raised it, so I think it's good to call it out. Just because of all that ledge, they want to be sure that there's not going to be blasting and that sort of thing. So there's no harm in calling that out. Counselor Block.
Thank you, Chair. Several members of the public referenced privacy issues because of the relationship between the physical geography of their property versus the building roofs, and how I understand there isn't a landscaping plan. I'm not sure this really is a landscaping question. It's something else that's close to it. What condition can we include to require addressing this?
So Counselor Block, I apologize if I misheard, but did you say that there wasn't a landscaping plan, or there was the landscaping plan included in the draft order?
Well, there's a landscaping plan that's required as a condition.
Correct.
We haven't seen it, I don't think. Have we? Is that on file? Is that on file?
Yes,
it is.
Okay, and so what? My mistake. So how does that relate to these privacy questions that people have raised regarding the physical proximity between the roof lines and their property on, I think it's on White Pine and Roundwood, I think. But you understand my reference, what I'm asking? Okay. So what do you suggest?
I would likely put this over to the petitioner to see if they have any details that they would want to draw off the landscaping plan specifically related to the privacy for abutters. My understanding is that the existing trees that are on the eastern lot line will remain for the abutter on the eastern side. However, a number of trees at the rear appear to be on abutting properties. So in terms of additional plantings for privacy, I would recommend speaking with the abutter on this item, or excuse me, the petitioner.
Okay. So does the petitioner have any comments on this question?
So I think, with this, and I'm not sure how exactly this could be conditioned, but it was expressed as an intention from the owner to work with the direct abutters on adding additional landscaping on their properties for this. The property line is in the middle of that ledge wall, so adding additional property at that edge is realistically not feasible. And I know that our client and the owner, he does a decent amount of work in Newton and is willing and would like to work with the neighbors to maintain, his reputation.
Mr. O'Leary, is there some wording that you can suggest that you think your owner would be comfortable with that's not too open-ended to address that? And Councillor Irish, I do see you next.
I think I'm trying to think of what we've seen on other projects in the past. We could add a specific number of trees to be planted at, mutual agreement between both the owner of this parcel and the abutting properties.
I wonder if we might want to leave this to planning and law to work out some wording of this between now and when it comes back. Could you look into that? I bet this is not the first time it's come up.
Yeah, Chair, I agree with that. We have done some things in the past, but give us some time to work on it with the petitioner and put this on second call, and we'll have some language together.
I think it is good to call it out, and I don't like something like, the petitioner will do his best to work with neighbors, because that's very open-ended. I'd like something a little bit more concrete. I don't think I want a specific number of trees either. That's not exactly the way to manage it. So thank you. I appreciate that, and I hope the committee will like that solution too. Anything else, Councilor?
Well,
Block?
I would just add, let's not overlook the rooftops themselves as a way of improving the appearance of the abutters. Just a comment. But I appreciate that legal and planning will work on some language that will get included in the final conditions. The other thing I just wanted to ask, and Councillor Leary really focused on this, and I do think the street safety, this comes up a lot to Narrow Street and to Sharp Bend, and this may have nothing to do with this condition. It may be our responsibility as a city government to try and work on this. I don't want to lose sight of that. And just need to say that, I guess. And if there is any condition that addresses that would make sense, I'd like it included, but I would understand if it really doesn't affect, if it really
I was
isn't
looking
germane.
for that too, and I believe Ms. Berman did. I mean, there was a lot to look at, but there was an INI condition that talked about neighborhood pedestrian
Yeah.
safety, and that funds will go to that. And I was going to call it out myself. I took notes, but I saw that it is in there.
Well, I saw that reference to it, but that doesn't, it's sort of the generic, well, let's make things prettier. We need to make things safer, only we really do need to do that.
10 o'clock.
Thank you. Good night, Councillor Farrell. No, we're almost done.
I'm sorry if I'm.
Sorry. Ms. Berman, can you just pull that condition up so we could see how specific or how vague it is for all of our edification, including Councillor Blocks? And then I think we're going to go to Councillor Golden and Councillor Irish and move ahead on this. And we are not going to be quite done by 10, which I would have liked to have been done, but we're not. Okay, let's see.
I do have to say, Chair, that this is an older version of our mitigation condition, so it will look a little bit different from this. But as to the categories of uses, they'll be the same.
Yep. To me, that looks good enough, and I have faith that the planning department will try and work. But Councillor Block, what do you think?
Yes, it isn't the language. Well, I'm fine with this language.
There's a certain amount that will be set aside that they will create
Sure.
the formula and it will go towards this. And we can't say what that's going to
Sure.
be.
No, we've
Not
yeah.
going to be speed bumps, I'm pretty sure. Okay.
I'm fine. Thank you, Chair.
You had your hand up, but do you want to close and we'll go to Councillor Golden and come back to you? Because you are the ward councillor. Councillor Golden.
My apologies. I'm belaboring the issue of the 20-foot granite wall because it just came up as it relates to the landscape buffer. Is the back of this lot from beginning to end, is it 20 feet or does it taper? We keep hearing reference to 20 feet of granite wall. Is it a granite wall of
Ledge
20?
of some sort. Ledge.
But the whole way?
It's rock.
Look at the elevations on the assessor's map, you'll see a difference in grade of approximately 20 feet,
The whole way?
the whole way.
Okay.
Some places it's greater,
It's almost,
right? Which brings into account, this old day of screening, everyone's assuming planting. In a normal situation where the properties are side by side on the same plane, you use fencing. But there's been no suggestion that fencing could solve the problem as well.
Sure. Understood. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
it'll be an interesting site visit someday. In your spare time. Councillor Irish.
And I apologize for raising this now, which we didn't discuss, but can we talk about the lighting, waiving the lighting requirements? That sort of went by me, and if we could just hear a little bit more about that, I would
Yep.
appreciate it.
I
Thank you.
think planning, we can hear from you. It's a very standard thing that we do. It seems that the parking lighting requirements seem too excessive and too glaring for residential abutters. So we almost always waive it but Sandria, would you like to address that?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I think you summarized it well. The lighting requirements are specifically related to parking facilities of 5 stalls or more, which technically applies to the eastern and western driveways. But to implement those, the type of lighting that's required would likely be a nuisance to abutters. And so the proposed lighting, I believe, is going to be dark sky compliant, but I would defer to the petitioner to confirm that.
More like wanting residential driveway requirements rather than parking lot, commercial parking lot requirements, which because it's 5 units, 5 stalls or more, it kicks in. It's something for ZAP to think about, maybe.
Yeah.
Because we waive it all the time for residential projects.
And there's no
Abutters
explanation.
don't
Yeah.
want that light
Yeah.
glare.
I agree. Yeah. I just wanted to make sure that was the direction it was going. The
Yep.
lighting requirements was for the benefit of
Right.
the abutters. And the other question is what Councillor Block brought up about so looking at the language. So yes, I think that was the other major issue that was raised. And although we can't put an amount or dollars or percentage at this point, but it is calculated through the
INI.
Okay.
Mitigation, yeah. So
Okay.
there's a little bit of homework that we've now
Mhm.
given tasked planning and law, and I assume some of this will be in conjunction with the petitioner to be sure that they are in agreement with the wording of it, particularly like about how they'll negotiate with abutters over privacy screening or whatever. But it sounds to me like we do have something we can vote on. It will probably be a motion to approve subject to second call. And we will then review the conditions that planning and law will be working on between now and then. Let's get some nods and then Councillor Farrell can go to bed and we all can. Okay. Let's take a vote on that, on approving this according to Councillor Irish's motion, subject to second call. Oh, Chair.
Oh, so, sorry, just one comment before you vote. I just want to make sure that that 1 foot for the path is put in here as a condition. I'm not sure if I saw it, but maybe I missed it.
Oh,
We're going.
thank you.
Okay.
My apologies. So there's no condition currently in the draft order specifically related to the path itself. I imagine that that's something that we could also discuss with law to see what options are available for something like that to be included in this special permit.
They've offered that 1 foot easement. So that really should be reflected somewhere.
Yes.
I didn't notice that it wasn't there.
Right, and just and just mention the drainage question. If it's taken care of, fine, but that just, we don't want to turn this path into soup.
We don't. Okay. Trevor, did you want to say something more?
No, I'm good. I just want to make sure that that was in there. That was something we did commit to.
Okay, thank you. Now we really are ready to take a vote. Take it away, Curtis.
Counselor Block,
Aye.
Counselor Farrell,
Wishing you all a very good night. Aye.
Counselor Golden, Counselor Irish,
Aye.
Counselor Leary,
Aye.
Counselor Lucas,
Aye.
Counselor Kelly.
Aye.
The motion passes 7-0 with 1 absent.
Wow. 10:10 p.m. Thank you, everyone. Lots of perseverance.
Thank you all.
We're adjourned.